Kutoka vijijini, mijini hadi jijini. Hii ni Sound Country Talk Live.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for choosing to be part of our conversation tonight. This is Sound Candy Talk, open forum political discussion show, the show that gives you an opportunity to air what you feel and think about the latest development on our political front. Well, there you have it, the fears and the anxiety that we have had about Boniface Mwangi, the activist who was taken in Tanzania from his hotel room to unknown destination, now was dumped at the border police station after having been tortured and immobilized. Now that's what is latest, and we'll be looking at it. Is this relationship between Kenya and Tanzania worthwhile? And if you are not in agreement with your guest, what is the way out? Is there no amicable way of sorting this out other than exposing the very visitor in your country that you don't want to torture? Now, we'll be looking at all that extensively as we hear different people from different parts of the world sharing on the same. But in my opinion, this is the lowest of it all. I think there is more to Tanzania than meets the eye. They have their front office and their back office. And I think we are now beginning to get access to their back office that doesn't look very attractive, as they portray themselves to be peaceful, honorable, and hospitable. If you don't want a guest in your country, in my opinion, you just show them the door. You don't arrest them, torture them, then dump them. I mean, what warrants that? Except you have evidence that maybe Boniface Mwangi went to Tanzania to overthrow the government, or is a terrorist, or is a drug trafficker, or something like that. I mean, just somebody going to be an activist for human rights, now you end up putting his life to danger. That's friendly. Okay? Let's keep looking at this as we explore further. So this has also raised a lot of questions, drawing from the conversation that Yvonne Okwara had with the now current Minister for Foreign Affairs, or CS for Foreign Affairs, Musalia Mudavadi, on national TV. And Musalia Mudavadi he was expressly in agreement with Samia Hassan, the president of Tanzania, on her take on why should Kenyan human rights activists go to stand with an accused person for treason in Tanzania. And so it appears that Musalia Mudavadi has already scored an own goal. So I don't know how he's going to navigate himself out of this. But to me, I don't see why somebody should be tortured simply because he got into your country, except he got in illegally, without passport, without being cleared by immigration. That's a different ballgame. But simply because you don't agree with his ideology or his approach to what he intends to stand for, no. this ought not to be the case. And if Kenya is intending to sweep this under the carpet, they are just demonstrating on how weak they are, in my opinion. And I stand to be corrected, but this ni kuwekwa kidole kwa macho uone kama msimamo na kuona mahali. Hebu karibu. Hii ni kuchokozwa, muone mtafanya nini. Hii ndio mtadu. So we will see vile watadu, lakini hii kwangu mimi haikubaliki, haipendezi. It's uncalled for. It's uncalled for. Just get the people, get them to wherever they came from. But torturing them, exposing them to all manner of pain, no. Well, we'll be looking at that particular video and be able to judge, but in my calculated opinion, I don't see the need for any form of violence or any form of torture on a human rights activist in a foreign country, for that matter. That should not be the case. Na mimi ni mgeni wa Tanzania kila mara. Sasa hii imeanza kuniogopesha. Sijui itakuwa kuwaje. Haya basi, naomba tafadhali tumakinike kukaribishana tunapoanza kipindi kwa fujo tu. Karibisha mtu, tuko live TikTok, tuko live Facebook page Sound Candy Talk, YouTube tunaitwa Sound Candy Talk, as well as Sound Candy Talk Live. The two channels are active right now. Please make sure that you follow through as we begin to dive deep into this discussion and get to the bottom of everything. So the relationship between Kenya and Tanzania on this matter needs to be scrutinized and then, of course, established in its right spectrum. Kwangu mimi haipendezi kabisa, haifai, na hapa kama ndio tumefika, basi tuache kiumane. Well, naomba tumakinike kukaribishana. Then swala lingine tena ambalo la kuogofisha, another sad reality in Kerio Valley, another Catholic priest. Remember the one we talked about yesterday is being buried tomorrow. Now, just before this one is buried, another one has been shot dead in Kerio Valley. So is it insecurity, or there is a target to exterminate Catholic priests? What is going on with our Catholic clerics? And of course, they are being killed, murdered, things like that. What is going on? Is it a calculated move to silence the Catholic Church, or it's just an accident or an isolated case? I also would want us to view that clearly, but in my opinion, this is too much. This is too much. We are busy politicking. We are busy, launching and relaunching projects that we launched many, many years ago when the security of the country is poor. See the way now we're being treated by our neighbors, and we are laughing. Something needs to happen, and that is somebody needs to rise up to occasion and do what they are required to do. I salute all of you that are joining. Thank you so much. Tuni Mhamuda wa PS, karibu kwa show. Esther Stoll, karibu kwa show. Good evening to you. Thank you so much. Kuna huyu Douglas anasema Bernard is a coincidence that Karua Boniface and JND are not sponsored. Whether they are sponsored or not, they are still human beings and they should be treated as human beings. I think the dignity of humanity, or rather human life, needs to be restored. What we are getting up, looking for an excuse to justify what should not be justified, that doesn't sit well with me. It doesn't matter who the person is. As long as he's a human being, he should be treated as one. And then, of course, things should happen within the framework of what is human and what is acceptable. But how do you just, get them tortured because they are human rights activists? When did that become a crime? And even if it's a crime, is it a capital crime where you mpige mtu mpaka ashinde kutembea? Kwani ni nyoka? Haya. Naomba tumakinike tunapoanza tafadhali. Link ya kutumia kuingia studio nishapeana. Kaitumie kama ulioni, uliza utapewa. Matoma Kandeti sema wewe Suluhu atakurusi. Wewe Kiswahili chako kinahitaji mguzo wa nani? Atakuruhisia. Hii ni ngumu. Tumgoje nani atatufafanulia kama amarekebisha. Ama unasema nini, atanirusha ama mimi na Suluhu tutapambana tu, lakini kwangu mimi hii haifai kabisa, Douglas, you should go to hell now if you're beginning to talk like that. Why are you talking like this? Is there Ben? Are you sure Boniface Mwangi did not abduct himself? Now you see, Kenyans, you guys, what is the problem? Well, how do you now abduct yourself? You abduct yourself, you torture yourself, you deliver yourself to the police station. How is that now? So that you get what? That's what you need to justify. After that, what do you get? Sympathy? Who looks for sympathy? Please, I think we need to scrutinize this thing. Suluhu amevuka mpaka na Wakenya lazima wamlainishe. Tanzania imeanza kukuja sana. Unajua ile kukuja sana, Mato atakwambia there is a Kamba phrase that says you have come too far. I mean you have come too close. I hope I'm right on that one. You are coming too much. Tanzania is coming too much. Okay? Kumbuka ng'ombe zetu zile zichukuliwa na Magufuli. Okay? Wakati wa Uhuru Kenyatta. Ng'ombe zikaenda tu hivyo, ati zilienda kukula nyasi. Zikachukuliwa na ikaisha hivyo story. Kuna tena kuku sijui zilichomwa. Vifaranga sijui zilikuwa zinatoka leo wapi za Wakenya, wafanyabiashara wa Kenya. Zikachomwa. Sasa this is coming too much. Yaani tunasukuma hivi tunasonga nyuma, tunasukuma hivi tunasonga nyuma. Na msipochunga mtasukumwa mpaka kwa bedroom. Now I'm not advocating for any war anywhere, but I think our dignity and our respect should be preserved. This is too much. Well, let's get talking. The poll question we are asking, should Kenya sever their relationship with Tanzania in this allegation of abducting and torturing the human rights activists who are Kenyans in Tanzania? Your yes or no, or rather other options are also available on that poll question. We need to hear what you're saying on the same. Let's start with that story of Boniface Mwangi and the torture manenos from Tanzania. Okay, let's look at it as we start the conversation. Na kama unakuja studio wai mapema tafadhali, usituweke hapa tukikusubiri. Karibu tukamalize mambo haya mapema, tukalale na sisi.
Kenyan activist Boniface Mwangi has been admitted at a hospital in Nairobi to undergo treatment after being allegedly tortured by Tanzanian authorities. Mwangi, who was arrested and detained on Monday, claims to have been dumped in Horohoro along the Kenya-Tanzania border with severe injuries that he says made him unable to walk. NTV's Kevin Mutai now reports that human rights activists are threatening to seek legal redress from the United Nations if Nairobi fails to take necessary action against Dodoma.
This amateur video, recorded Thursday morning, shows a visibly weak and wounded human rights defender Boniface Mwangi moments after being traced and found alive in Kwale County.
Nilipompata pale Boni alikuwa hata kwenda hawezi. Tukamshika watu wawili, nani driver pamoja na huyu akamshika, kwenda hawezi, maana yake asema alipigwa huku chini kwenye nyayo akaweza hata kugusa nini.
Boni was dropped in Horohoro border post, and he found his way up to Lunga and got transport, and Kelev picked him up.
Mwangi has been missing for 4 days while in the hands of Tanzanian authorities, accusing them of torture. He says he was in the same detention facility with Ugandan activist Agatha Atuhaire, whose whereabouts still remain unknown after they were separated and him deported by road to the Kenyan-Tanzanian border.
I've been tortured very badly. I can barely walk. But I'm very concerned about Agatha because we were tortured together. And they did very horrible things to us. So I hope that Agatha is safe.
Na kukaa siku 3 umefungwa uso na pingu, anakwenda choni hivyo kula hawezi kwa sababu akienda choni maskari wanaosimamia pale. Hii si haki.
He was badly tortured in Tanzania. And every time they were doing this, they kept making reference to the president, asking him to say Asante Mama Samia, as they were torturing him. These people were brutal.
The activists have accused the Tanzanian government of breaching international law and the East African Treaty by violating the rights of Mwangi and other human rights activists who were subjected to arrests and subsequent deportation. They are demanding action from the Kenyan government, failure to which they will pursue legal redress through international bodies.
Even if Mwangi was the worst of terrorists, torture is prohibited and cannot be justified under any circumstances whatsoever. Another major violation of his fundamental rights was enforced disappearance.
Tumeungana mikono pamoja na Kenya Human Rights Commission na mawakili, Kenya National Human Rights Commission na mawakili ili kuhakikisha hii ni kesi imefuatilizwa.
We have told them that we will expect nothing short of criminal charges and those officers to be arraigned in a court of law.
The activist Boniface Mwangi will now undergo medical treatment with human rights defenders, asking the Kenyan government to intervene and investigate Mwangi's ordeal with the purpose of taking necessary action against those responsible. Kevin Mutai, NTV in Mombasa.
Haya, mambo ni kama hayo yale yaliyomkumba mwanaharakati Boniface Mwangi Tanzania. Now, mnaona mnasikia hao ni wanaharakati wa human rights na wanakuambia vile sheria inasema. Kulikuwa ile enzi ilikuwa ya Moi, ya Jomo Kenyatta hapa awali, ilikuwa ni halali kutocha mtu au kitafuta information. So people taken into custody, they were tortured and pressed so that they give information or confess to their to their crime. But that law was changed. It is illegal to torture anybody for any reason. So if this is what is happening in Tanzania, then it is true what we are being told, that even during Magufuli's time, we had cases of people disappearing. Remember the Tundu Lissu's assassination attempt. And then this frustration of dissenting voices in the country. How the opposition must remain weaker and weaker as CCM continues to be stronger and stronger. And so this torture is a manifestation of some level of lawlessness in Tanzania, or rather Tanzania upholding laws that have been that are outdated. And they have been, done away with. For example, the law of hanging people. I mean, people have been sentenced for hanging. Is still, being contested because it violates the human right. So, what is this that is going on in Tanzania, that they are still torturing people when the international law is not for that approach, for whatever reason? And then to make matters worse, these people being tortured because they are human rights activists. Mimi nataka mniambie makosa ya kuwa human rights activist, dhambi ya kuwa human rights activist. Yani ni dhambi kubwa sana Tanzania, mpaka unafumbwa macho, unawekwa juu unapigwa miguu kwa sababu wewe ni human rights activist. Ni lipi hili ambalo linaendelea katika nyumba ya jirani ambalo halieleweki? Naomba ukaniambie hapo kwa comments, ama njoo kwa studio moja kwa moja ukanieleze. Hiki kinachoendelea mimi naona ni mchezo ambao tusipochunga basi hiyo ndio itakuwa mtindo. And then of course there is a new surge for dictatorship that is being intensely sought, especially in East Africa, okay? That they want to place the masses under control. And so this level of operation could be geared towards silencing dissenting voices and silencing the human rights voices. Now, this is not something that we should take lightly. In my opinion, Tanzania has a case to answer if any of these things are anything to go by. No reason to torture people, even when they are in custody, even when they are in prison. I mean, it's synonymous to bullying. Bullying we banned in school. So why should you pick somebody who is in a hotel, take them, torture them, keep them wherever, incognito, incommunicado, for 40 days? They are being sought after by family, by the embassy. And then, yani, mimi sioni sababu balozi wa Tanzania bado yuko hapa. Wakenya, mnaambie niko hapa, mimi nimekuja mzima, mnaambie haya mambo. Ni Mama Suluhu anatawala Kenya. Talk to me. Well, link ya kutumia kuingia studio ndio hii. Mnaogopa kuja studio? Njoo tuseme hii maneno. Ni Mama Suluhu anatawala Kenya. Nataka mnambie hiyo. Na anatawala Kenya kivipi? Jukumu la kulinda wageni ni jukumu la nchi ambayo ni ugeni. Sababu ya sikuwa na passport ya East Africa, na hata sio passport ya East Africa. Nimekuwa Tanzania, nimekuwa Zambia, nimekuwa Zimbabwe. I mean, hizi nchi zote, the moment you land, you become their guest and they are answerable. Ukishapigiwa rubber stamp hivi ukaingia. Okay, one, we are Commonwealth. We have those privileges as Commonwealth. Secondly, when you get in, the reason why the immigration receives you and exits you is because they are responsible. So you admitted the person, he came through the legal means, through the migration avenue. You received him in the country. You should be responsible for their welfare. But if you take them in and now you put them to torture, then you deport them and dump them, that's irresponsible. And so I don't know any justification of this unless you tell me something better. So anything that justifies this, mimi sioni kabisa. Ni kama mgeni kuja kwako, ukamfungia, ukampiga, alafu ukamtupa nje. Na ni mgeni tu. Mgeni akiwa kwako, wewe ndio unamsimamia. Wewe ndio ulinzi wake, wewe ndio msaada wake. Itakuwaje wewe unamgeuka unakuwa sasa ndio unataka kumwangamiza? Well, what is this that Tanzania fears, and is it justifiable? And then of course Mama Suluhu yuko tayari kwa haya mambo kwa sababu nikiangalia katika nchi hii Kenya, tuzungumze tu wazi na msinipige mawe, tuzungumze tu wazi, okay? Watanzania wangapi umekutana nao kwa street hii ya Nairobi? Wako mpaka wanauza peremende, wapo Kikomba wanauza nguo, wanatembeza socks, wapo hapa. So kama Wakenya wakienda Tanzania wanakuwa tortured, basi Wakenya nao waanze kukamata Watanzania hapa to torture them. Mama Suluhu yuko tayari kwa haya? No, because that's what she is asking for. If the Kenyan people are not safe in Tanzania, then Tanzanian people should not be safe in Kenya. Is that what she's asking for? And is she ready for the same? Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk. Let's talk. Thank you so much for being part of this conversation. Naona nani mwingine hapa? Sami Costa, siku nyingi, karibu sana. Thank you. Mata nasema shida, we can't torture Tanzania, ni viwete. Wewe Mato, leo uko na maneno, utashtakiwa wewe. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Tuni Muhammad anasema the president is not saying anything. Maybe yeye ndo alipeana hizo instructions. May God have mercy on us. Okay, Karua anasema Suluhu has lost it totally. It is a shame. I agree with you. This is not how I'm in fact, being a mama, you need to, your rulership needs to be more compassionate and more motherly. I mean, you can't be cruel to this level that you detain and get people tortured simply because they have come to, empower the human rights activists at home. That is not it. Na kama wataki wafungie kwa mpaka, sio waingie kwanza alafu uanze kuwatafuta and then una dhulumu. Haifai kabisa. So hili swala kusema Watanzania ni wapole, Watanzania ni wazuri, Watanzania ni wakarimu. Sasa ukarimu kwa wapi? Huu ndio ukarimu. Mgeni njoo mwenyeji apone. Sasa imekuwa mgeni njoo ukufi. Haya, mtaniambia. Nimesema leo msinipige mawe. Nataka tu tuseme ukweli. Okay? Hii ndio ukarimu. Hii ndio upole. Njooni mtetee. Kwanza ukiwa Mtanzania wewe ndio unatafuta. Njoo hapa unaambie haya mambo yanaendaje. TikTok niitie Watanzania wakuje hapa. Sisi nataka tuongee moja kwa moja. Mnaambie. Hii ndio ukarimu, kwa sababu kama hili suala la Mwangi ni kweli, okay? Na Mwangi alitolewa kwa hotel room, ila amelipia kwanza. Yaani wageni wamekuja, tourist, wametoa mpaka dola, wamelipa hotel. Wewe unawakamata juu, uende kuwatocha kwa kufanya kosa gani? Alafu mnaniambia ati hiyo ni halali. Hiyo si halali. Ati ni kulinda nchi. Hiyo ni kulinda nchi ama kubomoa nchi? Haya basi, naomba tusonge mbele. Nashukuru kila mmoja. Okay, Sami Costa anasema alienda kwa wenyewe kutafuta nini? Wewe Sami, mimi nakuuliza uko wapi? Sami, wewe utuambie uko nchi gani kwanza? Hakuna mtu ana kwa wenyewe hapa. We are in the East Africa community. And if you are proper Kenyan and you hold an international passport, that passport is no longer Kenyan passport. It's called East African passport. So, kwa wenyewe ni wapi? When you hold a passport of that country, you belong to that country, or you belong to that particular, what is it called, community. So, kwa wenyewe ni wapi? If I'm a holder of East African passport, kwetu ni East Africa. Na hata, that aside, hata niwe stoki East Africa, mimi kuingia kwenu inamaanisha niko chini ya ulinzi wenu, niko chini ya sheria zenu, na hizo sheria hazipaswi kugeuka sikwe sheria za kuniumiza mimi kwa kuja kwenu. So iki ni jinai ambalo sijui mtasemaje, lakini kwangu mimi alijaingia. So hii Samia yako ya kusema alikuwa ameenda kutafuta nini, kwangu mimi haifai kabisa. Lazima tuanze kufikiria deeper than that and begin to question things rightly. No foreigner should, including those who have even entered the country illegally. No human being should be subjected to torture. That law is no longer in effect. And anyone practicing it is barbaric and is primitive. Yes, it's barbaric, primitive, Stone Age mentality that you want to rule people by torturing them, scaring them, pressing them. Hapana. Tuko kwa information age, watu wana reason out. Unatoa point yako, unatoa yangu. Kama yangu ni zito kuliko yako, unakubali na yangu. Sio kunilima ngumi kwa sababu point yangu inazidi yako. Hiyo ni ya enzi zile zilipita. So hata kama alikuwa ameenda kutafuta wife, it doesn't matter. So alikuwa ameenda kutafuta nini is not important. Kukua Tanzania kwa njia halali inakubalika kabisa, na hitaji mtu yeyote kusema eti alikuwa ameenda kutafuta nini. Haya, mambo wadao. Suluhu anawajua anajua Ruto. Ametufanyia hivyo, amewapiga vijana akawaua. Suluhu akifinya hivyo hakuna shida. Haya, huyo ni Simba Marseille anasema kama huku kwetu tunauawa, sasa yake tufinya kidogo, makosa iko wapi? Yaani hakuna Mkenya ako na huruma. Ni nini wa Kenya? Even if human rights are violated at home, should we also suffer the same across the border? I don't think so. So, kila shukuru bwana Simba Marisaid, asante sana kwa kusema hivyo. Willy Madilo, asante sana, karibu. Asil2 TV, Bernard, that is a wrong way to reason. Do not mix ordinary wananchi na mambo ya wanasiasa. Sasa hapo ndio ngoma inapanda, kwa sababu mi Asil2 TV na kuheshimu sana na nashukuru sana kwa kuwa kila mara uko sehemu ya mijadala yetu na umekuwa sehemu ya hii channel tangu mwanzo. Kwangu mimi nitasema hivi, okay? Jukumu kubwa haliko kwangu, mimi ni raia, okay? Jukumu kubwa liko kwa viongozi, okay? Sasa kama Mama Suluhu ndio kiongozi mkubwa sana katika Tanzania, okay? Na yeye ndio anasimamia usalama wa kila Mtanzania dunia nzima, okay? Sio Tanzania peke yake, kila Mtanzania, wale wako Amerika, wale wako Ulaya, wale wako India, kila mahali, wote wanasimamiwa na kulindwa na mama anaitwa Mama Suluhu. So itakuwaje huyo ambaye ana jukumu kubwa la kulinda usalama wa kila Mtanzania pembe zote za dunia, yeye ndiye anahatarisha maisha yao? Kwa sababu kama watu wanaotoka katika nchi zingine wakija Tanzania wanakuwa tortured, anauliza nini? Si anataka wenye hiyo nchi nao wafanye torture to other Tanzanians? So I'm not asking that to happen, but the responsibility lies with Mama Suluhu, her speech, number one, and then of course how she conducts herself on this matter. Kama walikuwa wanataka Boniface Mwangi na wale wengine wasikue katika njia ya pekee, wangefanya vile walifanya Martha Karua, arudishwe kwa ndege, arudishwe Jomo Kenyatta bila kufungiwa, kupigwa, kuzuiwa, asipige simu, asiwasiliane na mtu yeyote, afungiwe, anyimwe chakula. Hiyo yote ni kwa nini? ili tuendelee na upendo? Hapana. So mimi nataka wajibu ukue juu ya viongozi, haswa Mama Suluhu. She is responsible for every Tanzanian everywhere, and that means she should conduct herself in such a way that if Tanzanians are going to be safe in Kenya, in Uganda, in Rwanda, in Burundi, in Kinshasa, and every other place, the other countries' citizens should also be safe in Tanzania. Lakini si tukija Tanzania tunafungiwa, tunagongwa miguu. Hapana. That should not be taken. Na so tusisema ati ni siasa. Kwa sababu sasa Boniface yako anaongezwa maji. Ako Nairobi Hospital anatibiwa. Haikukuwa siasa. Uchungu ni ule ule. Yeye, watoto wake sasa mke wake, everybody is concerned. He's in pain. That pain inflicted is not politics. So let's deal with a practical issue as a practical issue. Kama wewe uko niko na kastori kidogo hapa. Kuna mmoja walimu wangu, Bishop David Oyedepo, alikuwa anasema akiwa mtoto alikuwa anazozana na mama yake sana. Kwa nini? Mama yake alikuwa amezoea like siku moja kwa wiki, kama tuseme Saturday, ataita watoto wote wa mtaa, okay, na wapikie chakula alafu wakule. Wakimaliza kula, ana dismiss watoto waende, na lasa Bishop, the small boy, ambaye sasa ndio kijana huyo mama, yeye ndio anabaki kuosha sahani zote, okay. So akawa anakasirika kuosha sahani, na anauliza mama, kwa nini wewe peke yako kwa hii estate? Wewe ndio unapikanga chakula, unaita watoto wote wakule. Na akampatia jibu, akasema, napika hii chakula nikipatia watoto kwa sababu kuna mahali utakuwa ambako siko na mtu atakupatia chakula. So kuna vile ambavyo unafanya wema kwa ajili ya mtoto wako akiwa sehemu ambayo haupo, na yafanyiwe nini? Wema. Kama sisi tutakuja kutembea Tanzania alafu tunakuwa nini? Tortured. Basi hiyo inamaanisha standard ni hiyo. Standard ni hiyo. Wale wageni ambao wanakuja wafanye nini? Washughulikiwe. Na hiyo haifai kabisa. Na kama inatoka kwa ofisi ambayo ndio kubwa sana, basi hiyo pia inaonyesha picha mbaya. Na hapo ndio mimi nitasimamia. Nataka tuhakikishe hii masuala kwamba tunayasukuma vizuri, tuelewanwe. Our diplomatic relations should not be, dragged into the mud simply because we have maybe a vocal and outspoken democratic space than our neighbors. It is not our fault. We suffered to come where we are. And so we should be left to express ourselves. And those that are still behind should come and learn from us. Not for them to now begin to torture us because we are free, we are liberal, and we can say whatever we want to say, anyhow we want to say it, whichever way we wish to say it. Well, as long as whatever you're doing is not infringing on anybody's right, I don't have a problem with that. But if what we are doing is geared towards messing our relations, that should be an area you don't tread carelessly. Hapo ndio mimi nakosana na Mama Suluhu. Wakati wewe unasimamia watu wako na unajua watu wako wote wako kwa nyumba, watoto wako wote wako kwa nyumba, okay? Unajua watoto wako wale wako nje wanapaswa kulinda, basi linda watoto wa wenyewe ambao wamekimbilia kwako. Wewe usiumize wa wenyewe ukitarajia wako walindwe wakati wako huko nje. Sawa, nashukuru kila mmoja. Naomba tumakinike kukaribishana. Piga kura yako, like video, karibisha mtu, tuendelee moja kwa moja. Thank you very much for participating. Thank you comment section. I'll be sampling some of those comments and responding to the ones that demand my response. Mkenya mkora. Unaona ukora mmepeleka Tanzania.
We are omnipresent.
Tafadhali muende polepole. Hii mtaanza kupatia kompe Mungu mwenyewe sasa.
Si ndio tuko na compare na Mungu sasa, tunaenda kuwa omnipresent, tujue just be everywhere at the same time. We've come with a time machine, we can travel everywhere anytime. Alafu sasa ndio unajua wewe sasa unatuambia sasa kama watu wetu wanaenda kuwa tortured huko. Wewe kwanza nilikuwa nakwambia wewe utarudishwa haraka sana. Mama Suluhu utaenda kumwongelelea Kiswahili yako akwambia rudi Siaya. Hata ajui kule unatoka.
Mimi kwanza naenda huko Septemba. Na unajua kura yake si iko Oktoba. Ndio mimi nikienda nimeenda kabisa. Mpaka nipige kura nihakikisha ameanguka ndio nirudi.
Kwa rights zako, kwani bibi ametoka wapi? Hata kama tutaoa wengine huko tuseme pia sisi ni citizens. Iko nini?
Kwani kuna muda gani?
Na kitu ya kutocha, the problem is that Bernard, on a later note, we cannot torture watu wa nini. Usitembea pale nini Tau ukapata daktari wa mitishamba kutoka Tanzania. Sasa mnataka kutocha daktari wa mitishamba,
anatoka Sumbawanga. Anatibu bomba, anatibu ndoa na nguvu za kiume.
Sasa utamtocha aje sasa? Unajua tuna vinyano hao tu waatie tu, acha tupigane na Mama Suluhu. The Tanzanians in Kenya will deal with you when that time comes. Unajua wanasemanga samahani, naomba nikushike. Waambie wakuje wapatane na Kibra ikitupa mawe, ndio wajue atuchezeagwi. Sasa wametupa mawe kwa nyumba ya glass na wanaishi kwa glass. Wametupa mahali pabaya. Because now going on a serious note, Bernard, I've already seen 2 petitions of people asking for Tanzania to be taken out of the East African community. Already. And do I think it's imefanyika haraka? Yes, I do. But also, we don't have treaties to play with them. We, as East Africans, the member nations of East Africa, including Congo, were forced. Bernard, I know if you had that last passport, you're black, you were forced to go get another passport, you're blue, and inasema East Africa. Nowadays, in occasions, we don't just sing the Kenyan anthem. We also sing the Jumuiya one. Why? Because we have a treaty and a diplomatic treaty that everyone falls on. If one of the treaty countries is starting to treat the other person that they're not part of it, they can as well be expelled, or we expel ourselves. We've never treated Tanzania that way, and like you said earlier, I was listening to you, Bernard. Nilikuwa nakusikiza. Yes, kuna kuku na ng'ombe zilikatiwa mahali somewhere. But the same Tanzanians. Museveni is also pia yeye pale Migingo ametusumbua. Kagame ndio ameshindwa kutufikia. I think because he's landlocked. Lazima apitie mahali pengine kabla atufikie. So we as Kenya went through our troubles to get a democracy in our country. And this is a democracy that is being sought by even East Africa joining together. Even Congo to be liberated. Businesses pale Malaba We cross. They cross without even a passport. What is this that now you're telling us you can deport us? Hata kama mna to deport, please. You know, Tanzania is close to Wajaluo. Sorry, my Jaluo friends. Na Wajaluo hapendi kutembea. Siweke mtu kwa ndege. At least pandisha yeye ndege akuje in style. Sasa unamtupa kwa boda na boda amezoea kurukaruka hapo akinunua maembe. What am I trying to say? I'm saying our diplomatic agreements has to be relooked again, Bernard. On a serious note, we cannot have our neighbor deporting us for no crime at all. We don't deport them. Yet wako huko wakiuza vitu tunajua mitishamba, which is we know it's ni vitu za uongo. But because we have a treaty na sisi ni wale, so then we just ukishikwa shikiwa huko enda Kamiti. Na pia mimi nikishikiwa Dodoma, wacha niende Dodoma kama nilikuwa nimeibia mtu. Lakini kama mtu hajafanya makosa, and talking about activism, maybe Tanzania cause kizungu inawalemea kidogo, maybe wajui activism ni nini. And no one was going there to do anything. They were just going to watch a case. Only Mother Karua ndio mnaweza sema cause yeye ndio ako na license ya to prosecute, to do whatever in East Africa. Them they were just spectators. So next time mnataka kutuambia Yaga ikicheza bola tufai kukuja. Bernard, the diplomacy is gone and we have to relook at it, and we have to be very strong as a country and condemn this in the highest means possible. Rafiki yako ndio sijui amenyamazia wapi, ni kama walikuwa kwa nini cahoots together, because as a president angefaa kuashaongea. Hata huyu mwingine Baba Fidel hajaongea. I'm wondering what is going on. Parliament ya Tanzania imeshinda ikiongea juu ya Kenya the whole day jana. Kenya hakuna kitu tunaongea, tumenyamaza hivi, lakini mtu wao akiguzwa, the parliamentarians ndio wanakimbia. They want expedient investigation. Kwani Boniface Mwangi si mtu? Haya, acha nyamazia hapo for now.
Okay, thank you. We appreciate that. Kile ambacho kinaendelea, lazima kwa Kenya wajisatiti na watetee haki yao. Kuna huyu anaitwa Sami anasema alienda kuchochea kwa wenyewe, kila mtu akae kwao. Hiyo sheria haipo. Hakuna wenyewe East Africa. We are all East African citizens, na being in Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, Congo, all the member states of East Africa community, we are at home. We share the passport. That means we share even the resources that are within that particular part of the world. Anasema we all need to support Tanzania because Boniface was never there on behalf of Kenya. Sami Costa, I don't know where you're getting that, your understanding. You need to update yourself. Human rights are universal, that's one, and are also within the framework of international law. And so any human rights activist is able to stand out for human rights in any place where those rights are being violated. And this torturing of Boniface Mwangi is a proof that there are human rights violations in Tanzania, only that they are being covered up. And that covering up is what has now been lifted, so that the whole world knows that there is more happening in Tanzania than the front office. They show us that hao ni wanyenyekevu, hao ni watakatifu, hawawezi kunini. Hata polisi akikuja kushika anakuambia samahani, naomba nikushike. Sasa huyu Boniface alikuwa anaomba samahani kweli wakati anapigwa miguu mpaka anashindwa kutembea? So hivi ndio mambo ambayo tunapaswa kuyashughulikia. So Sami, kama we ni Mkenya, najua we ni Mkenya, lazima usimame na Kenya kwanza, okay? Baadaye alafu utetee nini Watanzania. Mimi sichukii Watanzania, niko na marafiki wengi wa Tanzania, ndio nakwambia Septemba naweza kwenda huko nikienda ku observe wataka observation, labda hiyo jina observation ndio shida. I should go there in anticipation of the elections in October. But what we need here is for us to up the game as far as putting in operation the laws that govern our relationships. Okay, unajua uhusiano wote ukiachwa kila mtu afanye vile anavyotaka, huo uhusiano hautadumu na hautakuwa na faida, mpaka kuwe na mipaka, kuwe na limits, kuwe how far you can come, how far I can come. So what's cooking here is not good, and why even Kenya is silent is what is not making sense. They should not be silent. From the fact that Kenyans were in Tanzania, they had crossed the border legally. Then when they got in Tanzania, they were held, they were put in custody in unclear circumstances, no proper communication. And then we acquired, when we are supposed to be the big brother of East Africa, something needs to happen. And then masuala ya activism, Mato unasema wa Tanzania wajui. Unajua Tanzania ndio ilikuwa inaongoza maneno ya chini ya Nyerere na nani waliongoza maneno ya kupigana na apartheid policy in South Africa. Hao ndio walikuwa na host armies. The same I think for Zimbabwe as well, including Mozambique. So harakati haujaanzia Kenya. Mwalimu Julius Nyerere na wenzake hao ndio waliongoza masuala ya nini ya kuokoa kupata independence. They are the fathers of independence. They are the fathers of liberation. So how can they be doing torture behind closed doors, and all of it is being visited on foreigners, friends of that particular country? That's unacceptable. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are proceeding with the conversation. Kama unakuja kwa show, tafadhali wai mapema. Kama uoni link, uliza nikupatie wai tukazungumze kwa kina. Mato, I want to play video. Unasemaje?
Nasema hata nani alikuwa mwanaharakati anaitwaje Kiwete. Oh sorry, Kikwete.
Yes, Kikwete. Then we had some lady, alikuwa anaitwa nani? Alikaa hapa sana. She had a name there. Can't remember the name. Lakini alikuwa mwanaharakati, and I think she was leading an international organization in Nairobi.
Na ndio maana kama wanachapaga watu miguu, ndio maana maybe Kikwete, or maybe ndio maana ni wengi hizo viwete huku nini Kenya wamekimbia huko wasikatwe miguu zote. We will deal with them.
Let's go. Tusiweke sanction kwamba we are not sensitive to people living with disability. But what I would say is, as a country, we need to up the game. We are being pushed, and our neighbors are now coming too much into our nerves. And if we don't rise up and defend the whatever is left of us, tutakanyagwa, tutakaliwa, na hakuna kitu tutafanya. So wakati ufika, kama ni serikali ama Wakenya wenyewe, tusimame na tuhesabiki. Hatuwezi kuona mambo kama yanaharibika na tunanyamaza. Wacha tumsikilize huyu Martha Karua akiangazia swala la Musalia Mudavadi, akizungumzia hilo swala la Wakenya na kuhujumiwa Tanzania.
Which is not his home. He had no phone. They returned his passport on dumping him there. and he found his way to Mombasa. Through the help of other people, he was able to call his wife, and that's how the wife organized to go for him in Mombasa because he was injured, could hardly walk. He was ushered into the plane on a wheelchair and out of the plane in Nairobi on a wheelchair. Boni has given a statement this evening at Wilson Airport. It is not for me to try and water down that statement. All I can say, I went to the hospital to see him. I have found him in a lot of pain. He has shown me swellings on his feet, and he has said he is feeling pain all over his body where he was tortured. The doctors are examining him, and there will be a full medical report, and it's for him to share. But the question is, why adopt torture, cruel and degrading and inhuman treatment? Why would Tanzania do that to a Kenyan and to a Ugandan? Because Boni was detained alongside Agatha Atuhaire, a human rights defender from Uganda. Why torture them? Because he told me he could hear Agatha being tortured in the next room. Where is Agatha? Is this the East Africa that subscribes to the rule of law, good governance and democracy? The government of Tanzania under Mama Suluhu has shown its real face, a violator of human rights, and it is not alone. Kenya is complicit. This situation could have been different if Kenya had demanded an explanation on Sunday and on Monday when Boni was arrested and the others. It could have asked for them to be returned or reasons to be given. But when CS Mudavadi seems to gloat over the mistreatment of Kenyans, that is where the Tanzanian government got the audacity to torture Kenyans. The Kenyan government is responsible, together with the Tanzanian government, for the torture Boni and Agatha Atuhaire have undergone, and Agatha is still missing. In Tanzania, we are aware that an activist whom I had met recently, Mudude Nyagali, has been missing for more than 100 days. He was abducted from his house by people believed to be police. They tortured him in his house, and videos from his family show blood, a bloody scene in his house. Is he well? What is happening to Tanzania? Torture of nationals, torture of foreigners. And last year, we know, an official of Chadema was abducted from a bus, and he turned up tortured and dead. Others have been tortured. What is happening to Tanzania? What is happening to Kenya, where citizens have been abducted, tortured, some turning up dead, some still missing? 2 of the Mlolongo 4 are still missing up today. Our governments are not taking any responsibility. Why do they exist if they cannot be able to look after the security of the citizens? In Uganda, routinely, members of Bobi Wine's party, NUP, are abducted, tortured. 36 members of Besige's party were abducted from Kenya, from Kisumu, July of last year, tortured and renditioned to Uganda, where they were charged before the military tribunal. They've only been released from those charges recently. Besige himself, whom I represent, together with his friend Obed Lutare, were abducted from Kenya by people believed to be Kenyan security agencies collaborating with Ugandan security agencies, renditioned to Uganda, and is still in custody up to today. I was in court at Nakawa yesterday, where they gave a mention date for next week, but today I'm seeing a production warrant done for tomorrow. I do not know what is happening to our beloved Jumuiya. We are asking citizens to speak up against torture, against violation of their rights, against enforced disappearances, against desecrations of our constitutions, which have similarities in regard to human rights, good governance, and the rule.
Okay, there you have it, Mother Karua there, giving a view about what's happening and more insights on what is going on. And from that conversation, you can tell there is more than what meets the eye in our neighboring countries. These forced disappearances. And I would want us to look at this objectively and not use our own problem as a justification. Every person everywhere should be safe, especially when they're in a foreign country. They should be more, we should be more careful about how we treat foreigners in our country, better than even the indigenous. But what we are looking at here is, blatant violation of human rights, and all of it is because somebody feels that he's so much in power and there is nowhere he can be taken, no matter what he does. That's an attitude of some of the African leaders, and that doesn't sit well when it comes to helping the situation to pick up. Now, Mato, there's this aspect of the destabilizing of governments, so that foreigners can come in and do the looting. We've had that with, of course, Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, and then, of course, umesikia Ivory Coast kuna mtu alibebwa juju.
Actually, Bernard, I was scared of bringing that, but now that umeileta, let me come to that actually. You see, we have a parliament, right? East African Parliament. It's
yes,
about time
we have both parliament and judiciary. There is East Africa Court of Justice.
Exactly. So now, on a very serious note, wacha niache mavitu zangu sasa. Let me just be serious and get there. East African Parliament is not there for stooges. We need to see when they sat down and what they think about this matter. For the longest time, you never see them sitting. And this is a matter that the parliament needs to be called. I can almost bet you a lot of people watching us do not know the members of the East African Parliament by name or even by face. So that's number one. Now coming to that point, the difficult point I didn't want to bring. Africa is changing so quickly. Some people are saying Africa is becoming woke. And by that I mean, when you look at the Traores, Nigers, and all those that are coming up, and like the latest threat from the West that nobody should come to should go to the West, and most of the African countries either kept quiet or said we don't care. We are going to live ourselves and do our things. I'm not saying I'm right, but it brings me to a point of juggling my mind and asking myself, could there be an external power that has seen a unity somewhere with so many resources that they've depended on, and by all means, they will try however they can jump kati na nini to kind of circumnavigate that unity never lasts. We all remember the last time Africa wanted to have their own currency. Right now, the biggest union in Africa is East Africa. So, can we sit back and ask ourselves, is there maybe some external powers that are trying to destroy this unity? So that now that African presidents are not giving in to threats from out there, from IMF, from whatever, people like Ina Traore, they can use people watu wash kama kina Ruto and maybe Suluhu and whatever CCM and kina Museveni to destroy that unity, that economical geopolitical unity. That's a question I want to throw to you. Nilikuwa naogopa kuisema lakini wewe umeintroduce. So I can see Lala is here. Na wewe ndio umeintroduce. Don't kill the messenger.
No problem. We will have to dive in. We can't avoid it because we are part of this global family, and the relationships need to be redefined, especially with what is going on in Africa right now. I don't think there is turning back to this, and anybody who thinks that he can even delay this is dreaming, in my opinion, from where I sit. This is the plane is already on the runway. You cannot stop it. It has to take the flight. And so any other person thinking that he can derail what is cooking in Africa right now, he will be shot. And then, of course, the greatest fear is the proposition of everybody going back to the gold. It's called the gold system of valuation that may end up making some people victims of this drastic change, sudden change that doesn't give you time to prepare. The change of in the morning you had nothing, in the evening you have everything. Or in the morning you had everything, and in the evening you don't have anything. And you didn't have time to prepare in between or adjust. So what's cooking is very much, and that is what I see happening in Tanzania, that they didn't take time to grow their democracy to a level whereby they will be able to enjoy input like what we have in Kenya, whereby it's possible for opposition to help government to run government. Now, I'm not saying in justifying that people should be crossing the floor anyhow, but I'm saying that not everything opposition is evil, and not everything government is good. Like the Uhuru Kenyatta situation, when they had Ngaiseri is in ODM, and then we have Olelengu who was seeing mattresses and the terrorists disappearing and things like that. So the security situation was problematic, and Ngaiseri had to be approached. You have background in the military, you have an understanding in the security, please come over and help the security situation. What we see in Tanzania is we should condemn everything that hii ni ya Chadema, hii ni ya kupinga serikali, hii imekwenda kinyume na mwalimu, haifai. And in the process, kuna watu ambao wangekuwa wanachangia kukua kwa nchi na kukua kwa demokrasia ambao hawapewi nafasi simply because wameassociate na Chadema ama wameassociate na party ambayo sio CCM. Na kwa hiyo hii miaka yote 60 ya kuwa huru haijakuwa huru kweli kweli. Kwa nini? Tumezuia ile hali ya kufungua nafasi ya watu wote katika hiyo jumuiya ya Tanzania kuwa na nafasi ya kuchangia maendeleo. So imekuwa maendeleo ni CCM. Vile tulikuwa tuna KANU, KANU yajenga inji, KANU yajenga shule, KANU inaoza watu, KANU ndio inafundisha, KANU ndio kila kitu.
Bernard, let me add on to that point kidogo, please. You know, 3 weeks ago, they had in our parliament, unajua watu wengi waangaliangi parliament sana, 3 or 1 month ago, they had a whole session. Sijui Bernard amekatwa, lakini they had a whole session for those who are listening before Bernard comes back. And Lala, thank you. They had a whole session of trying to inaitwa nini, kulipia watu bond when wameshikwa outside the country. So at that point, you wonder what's the immigration's job, if not to look out for their citizens. If today ushikie a citizen of let's talk about what you guys like talking about, United States or UK. If you get a citizen ameshikiwa hizo country, anachukuliagwa hapo very fast because they know their consulate is there for a purpose, to take care of their citizen. So I wonder, even in other people in diaspora who can say, I bet you've known mtu mwenye ameshikiwa huko. Why the Kenyan consulate all over the world will never answer a call wakijua ni kitu mtu ameshikiwa huko, yet it's their citizen. So you wonder, what are the consulate doing out there? Because that's a matter that should be taken very seriously. If your countryman is ameshikiwa mahali, you have to go take it. So it was in parliament. They spoke about it. They even funded, they passed where they are going to put a kitty of bonding Kenyan citizens who are outside, who have been arrested outside the country. So maybe mnaweza nieleza mkiwa na Lala, how we are funding that, and then now even here hapa tu mali ya kuendesha basi ama kupanda basi, you cannot even say anything as a government, and then you have Musalia here talking matope. I mean, Bernard.
Okay, so I will let Lala respond to that as he makes his submission. Thank you everybody. Please tumakinike kukaribishana, piga kura, like video tafadhali. Reverend Lala, are you still there?
I'm here. Good to see you, Bernard. Mato, happy to hear your voice. Clearly, listen to both of you, talk about Tanzania. I love the woman. She is a lovely person, and so far, I think in terms of leadership, she seems to be doing okay. But in this instance, I think she is wrong. She overreacted, and I think there must be a coordination with all those countries, Kenya and Tanzania, targeting certain people, because it's barbaric, it's not right what went on. There are other means of shaking, if there are other influences, because influences come from everywhere. There's intelligence that could inform the government of certain things, but even in those cases, you respect the individual, invite them to discuss what went on, and tell them what laws they have disobeyed, or they are not obeying, or they are not charging with. You don't do things like this. It is, to me, sound like a very panicking, regime, which we thought it was not. We thought Tanzania was a little bit ahead in terms of cohesion of their people. where on that level they are ahead of Kenya because people know themselves as Tanzanians rather than the tribal, which is a strength, which now they basically have not used that one to critique or to do other things that need to be done for their democracy. So in my mind, these people, whoever, tortured a Kenyan or Mwangi and any person, must be put to books. If we're going to have a community, the president must speak on this issue. But on the other hand, I'm blaming Kenya. Kenya is silent and they come in pretty late and they come on the side. We don't know what they're talking about. So to me, I just don't understand when a taxpayer, your citizen, has been is missing in another country, and you talk the way Mudavadi talked. Then even the respect I had for him, I know he's towing government line. There are times when silence may be a little better. It's not even better at all, but it's maybe a little better than opening your mouth kutoa matope. And that's exactly what he did. I should have summoned Tanzanian ambassador, High Commissioner, I don't know the ambassador or High Commissioner, as soon as possible. He should have addressed, the issues at hand immediately, because the first commitment of any government to protect her own people is the Kenyan first. You don't judge someone before the court of law says they're guilty. Your job is to protect the Kenyan lives, if whatever. I'll give you an example here. Some few years ago, I was, a group of us, we were driving in Japan, and we were hit, on the road. The Japan, somebody on the road. And did you know the Japanese officers came to where the accident was, did not touch us. They had to call the US military police to come to process us. They didn't even, they just kept us there waiting for the military police to process us right there. And that's the way it's supposed to be done. If they didn't come, they could have easily come and locked us and caused an accident. And I wasn't the one driving anyway. But that what happened. And those are because you're, as a government, it is the Kenyan taxpayer, is that person that has given you that government. Just the one you protect first. Then after that, after you secure the environment, make sure they're safe, then now you can ask other questions. Okay. The first thing could have been Tanzania authority, what is going on here? Summon that person immediately. Dispatch somebody to make sure they are safe. The medical, everything else. They want to make sure they, what has happened. Is it a jack by thugs and robbers and all that? If it's a government, those are the things you do. You don't go out, start talking. What diplomacy is that? But to me, as much as we want to blame somebody else, let's look at what we have done in this case. I think we have goofed big time. But Tanzania definitely did wrong, okay? Even if the Kenya government told them to do that, they shouldn't have done it. They should have simply told the people, at least tell them, we are not welcome to our country for certain reasons. We will let you know. Of course, we still have to make some protests, but at least there's some respect and dignity accorded to the people that are in your country. You don't do things like that. This is barbaric. This is wrong. Mama Suluhu, mmefanya makosa, na you need to ask for some kind of explanation or some understanding, and so that we can be good neighbors. Otherwise, back to you, Bernard.
All right. Thank you, Reverend Lala. We appreciate that. And it's clear that Kenyans are on their own when it comes to being mistreated in the neighbor's house. It appears that the foreign Affairs Ministry speaks on behalf of the government that is supposed to be, reprimanded for mistreating us for being there in the first place. I've just been checking the history of let me just play that video. It's an old video, but before Mato comes in, there is this Magufuli and the Kenyan animals, where I think Amina Mohammed was the Minister for Foreign Affairs at that time, and she wrote a protest letter to the Tanzania government about the detention of the animals, but they did more than that. They did not just detain the animals, they auctioned them. Okay, let me just get that ready. One moment. Get that video, and then I'll talk and weigh on that. And this is I'm playing this to show that the Tanzania-Kenya relationship has not been all smooth, and we are playing it low, and I think that's why they keep coming. Let's listen out to this.
Living on the edge of the map with neighboring Tanzania, the borderline that divides them doesn't really exist. But the reception for drought-afflicted Maasai pastoralists living on the shadow of the Kilimanjaro and who crossed the line into neighboring Tanzania in search of water and pasture for their animals was a cold and harsh one.
Hakuna siku tumeenda pande hiyo. Leo ndio siku ya kwanza na tumeona kitu ajabu sana. Siweni kama siku nyingine tunaendelea pande hiyo ili mtu ikionekana anataka kukata shingo siwezi kurudi tena.
1,325 of their animals were rounded up and auctioned. A number of herders like Ole Matui were also arrested, an incident that was at the center of a diplomatic disagreement between Kenya and Tanzania. Tanzania maintains the herders broke the law, but Kenya feels her neighbors' actions were a bit extreme.
Like we say, governments come and go, but the people of our two nations will always be there. And two wrongs don't make a right. They don't. And I think that we need to learn to talk about issues and to have discussions, and we must talk to each other, not at each other.
These actions were backed by Tanzania President John Magufuli, who Monday only slammed the door on any efforts of a peaceable resolution of the matter, with remarks to the effect that Tanzania was no grazing field for Kenyan livestock. In another recent incident, Tanzanian officials impounded and set alight some 6,400 chicks at the Manga post in Longindo district of Arusha. Authorities there said the action was meant to curb the spread of animal diseases like bird flu. Kenya has now protested what it sees as Tanzania's campaign of hostility that blatantly disregarded the plight or interests of the affected Kenyan citizens. In a protest note delivered to Tanzania authorities at an East Africa community meeting in Arusha, Kenya raised concerns about her neighbor's policy shift that seems to condone ill will expressed on Kenyan citizens and their business interests.
We have protocols, we have ways of dealing with issues in the East African community that should work. They should not be ignored or pushed aside.
The Foreign Affairs CS says the government would pay compensation to the herders in Oloitoktok in an effort to put out the flames. The Maasai herders had threatened to retaliate against Tanzanians living and working on the Kenyan side of the border.
People are also watching. Yes, they feel they've been treated unfairly, maybe. They feel that things should not happen. And I think when you have a tit for tat, then what you're doing is perpetuating, right, a wrong.
With relations between the two countries at a crossroad, Kenya is choosing the high road.
I wish what happened never happened, right? I think we all wish that, but that has happened. So what we need to do is now make sure that our conversations can end up stopping anything like that from happening in the future.
Amina said the two countries have to have candid discussions to ensure it doesn't happen again, while at the same time preserving their rich historical relations. Sheila Sendeo, NTV.
There you have it. That I wanted us to have that recap of what happened during Magufuli's time with Uhuru Kenyatta and our animals and the chicks. Tanzania did all that and got away with it. I mean, it is now the Kenya government that compensated the Maasais who lost their animals. But Magufuli alichukua ng'ombe, akauza, pesa akaweka mfukoni. Alafu bado tunasema sisi ni ndugu, tuendelee hivyo hivyo. Hiyo ndio maendeleo. Mato.
That's exactly, Bernard, the questions that people need to be asking because, saa zingine tunaogopaga kuuliza maswali ngumu. You see, that time venye ili happen hivyo, kila mtu tu alinyamaza, akasema, ndugu zetu tuendelee. But again, Bernard, and especially like that video you just played, which cow knows, ng'ombe gani inajua nyasi ya nini ya Tanzania inaonjaje na ya Kenya inaonjaje? I mean, you gotta watch. I mean, you gotta look at this. And actually, do we really have borders between Tanzania and Kenya, other than gateways? The rest of the land, the vast land, is very open. Watu wajafika mahali Trump anaweka ukuta. So mimi nikiwa naishi huko mashamba huko na Tanzania iko huko. Kwanza hata unajua watu wanajuanga kama waliingia huko lini ama walitoka lini, wameoana, wako wapi, kila kitu wanafanya pamoja, they are working together and everything. Only a roadblock ka barabara, na huko kwenye hakuna barabara. So what I'm trying to, ile kitu Bernard, we need to focus in is the politics and what is happening, because there's so many Tanzanians who will tell you they don't even know where the border is. And there's so many Kenyans who will tell you they don't know where the border is. The fight inaanzishwa hapa sasa, it will come to affect us eventually. Not just Kenyans. The whole of the demarcations that the colonial powers left us, that were not even fenced to know where, or even they didn't have a beacon to know where you are and where you're not. I'll take you back just for people to remember. There's a time a president said that all the way to Naivasha belongs to that country. Yes, there was feedback. Okay. So now when neighbors start fighting each other, now we will have to go back and look at who belongs where, who doesn't belong where, and where's the border. Where can you put your foot and where can you not put your foot? What can you sell somewhere, or what can you not sell somewhere? If you look at the border areas of our country and any other country, especially let me just talk about East Africa. People don't even know where you come from. They just know you. And that's the essence of the unity that was coming to a point of having even the same parliament, same national, Jumuiya anthem and all that. So Bernard, we're walking on eggshells. Don't forget, Ukraine and Russia, they are right next door neighbors. And look at them. Look at what is happening to them. I don't understand why Africa thinks that they can never go into war with other countries that are next to them. These small things can get to a place. I mean, it's a ticking time bomb. One small thing, na tuko vita on our own selves instead of uniting. Yet, the constitutions that we keep on talking in parliament, we keep on saying, oh, Malcolm X did this, oh, America is this, oh, America that, oh, UK this, oh, Australia that. Bernard, we are tunajichoma wenyewe kama Africa. Soon we were about to start, get a language. I mean, I think the proposed one was Swahili because it's spoken in almost all East African Jumuiya people. Now where we are heading, and Bernard, mtanyamazi hapa na nitoke because I'm about kusema kitu mbaya. I still go back to 2 years ago, Bernard, when I asked you, are we ready for a female leadership? Because I think, na sisemi tu ni wanawake wote, I think someone else kama Magufuli would have never uttered those words. I don't know. Maybe we need to rethink. Najua nimechoma, wacha nikimbie kabla nianze kuchapwa.
Wewe kesi yako baadaye. Reverend Lal, you have something to say on that, or you switch gears?
Actually, the action is very puzzling. I don't think it's about a woman, but it could be. I'm not sure. But in this case, to me, I think it's very puzzling because I thought at least what she has working with in terms of they're fairly peaceful people. They don't ask for much. They seems to have listened to Nyerere and the people obey her there. So why would you want to create a fight with Kenya? Unless there's something else going on. So to me, it's very puzzling because whoever advised her to do this, I can understand why Matu is saying what she is saying, but whether they're tough-minded, to make good decisions. No, we've seen some of them make very sound decisions. So this issue is which is really puzzling to basically allow your country to torture others. She could have been one who's mad, even more. If they did it behind her back, she should have been mad to go people to jail. But why would you, sacrifice your reputation, which actually work against you, and strengthen your opponent? A lot of sympathy is coming. It beats me. I don't really understand. And even up to this moment, I haven't seen anything that she has stated. The people that she took in are not thieves. They are not robbers. And even robbers, you don't beat them. You accord them. You become courteous to them. You bring them to your law court, and charge them if there is something, but not torture, people, and even use thorax instead of laws. So that, to me, I thought here is a classical case where women should even be better in terms of empathy and sympathy and all that. And so for her not to even think of that as a woman, I don't understand it. So that's what I would say. I've always admired her, okay, but I think this one act is really making me question really what's going on. So she will come out and let us know exactly what is going on. Back to you, Bernard.
Okay, it's awesome. Thank you. And probably I will throw this in before we switch gears. This is her first presidential elections. that are coming so fast in the next 3 months or so. Probably is the pressure of that elections. Remember, she got into office after Magufuli won. So she's been enjoying the grace of Magufuli, but she has never contested presidents in her name. This is the first one. And so that pressure, it could be what is causing her to make this blunder, because she's not known for those diplomatic blunders since she assumed office. And of course, being a woman, she has been very careful. This carelessness, we're just seeing it towards this election. So I don't understand why the elections have become a serious issue on her table, since things look like she will have a walkover in the elections. So where is the pressure coming from? Unless the party politics. The party politics, probably they would want to replace her with a different candidate. Is that possible? Or maybe that. But from the look of things, nothing should be pressurizing Suluhu right now. Not even the opposition, because the opposition is like a third of what CCM has, and so it is very difficult to overturn CCM at this point in time. So I would just want, unless there is a conspiracy, like somebody suggesting here, that she got a phone call from Ruto to stop those people or things like that. And then, of course, they are afraid of the foreign influence that you're talking about, that through the activism movement, the foreign powers that may be anti that government would want to infiltrate the country and be able to sponsor those whatever human rights activism through that, and be able to influence the outcome of the elections. Probably those would be the fears. But from the look of things, my observation, Suluhu should be sitting pretty, waiting to be sworn in again as president for her final term.
Yes, Bernard, and that's what is puzzling, because she has a constituents that believe in her, that believe in Tanzania. She already has everything made, and so for her to do this, what she's done, basically against what Nyerere and others stood for, is puzzling to me, very, very puzzling. Especially when I see, Mwangi, and the other girl, has she been found? Has she been released?
No, we just have scanty information. Let me just play this video and see whether we can get more insights, and then we pick from there.
There is a growing diplomatic storm between Kenya and Tanzania after the apparent abduction of human rights activists Boniface Mwangi and Ugandan Agatha Atuhaire. Foreign Affairs Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi, shifting position on the matter, negates a desperate note sent to Tanzanian authorities Wednesday requesting for the release of Mwangi. And while Boniface has since been released, the whereabouts of Uganda's Agatha Atuhaire are still unknown. NTV's Catherine Omando reports.
I don't know the reason why they're in my room. I was sleeping, they woke me up. They said they want to see me.
The arrest of human rights activist Boniface Mwangi in Tanzania under unclear circumstances 4 days ago has left a diplomatic stain between Nairobi and Dodoma. Mwangi was arrested when he made his way to Dar es Salaam with the intention to observe the treason trial of that country's leading opposition leader Tundu Lissu of the Chadema party. Kenyan officials claim that they were not informed of his detention, sparking a diplomatic spat between Nairobi and Dodoma. In a protest note, Kenya said that despite several requests, officials of the Kenyan government have been denied consular access and information to Mr. Mwangi. The letter says that the ministry is also concerned about his health and overall well-being and the absence of information regarding his detention. Mwangi was released late last night by Tanzanian authorities and left in Ukunda at the Kenyan coast. His release has raised more questions than answers about the nature of his arrest and the treatment he received while in custody.
He was badly tortured in Tanzania. And every time they were doing this, they kept making reference to the president, asking him to say, Asante Mama Samia, as they were torturing him.
Prime Cabinet Secretary and CS of Foreign Affairs, Musalia Mudavadi, today called the incident unfortunate.
We will, through diplomatic channels, establish more details, because normally there are protocols that should be followed if certain matters were to be handled, maybe in terms of whether they were going to observe court proceedings and so forth. So there are protocols, and that is a matter that now we will pursue through diplomatic channels. But most important as well is that we have very cordial relations with Tanzania.
Even though Mwangi has been released, Tanzanian authorities still have not explained why they were holding the activists. However, the Kenyan government says this recent event is a wake-up call.
Kenyans should come to the reality that they should not take what they have for granted. What applies here does not necessarily apply elsewhere. The Constitution 2010 of the Republic of Kenya applies to Kenya. Kenya's constitution does not apply in Uganda. Kenya's constitution does not apply in Tanzania.
Boniface Mwangi was taken into custody alongside a Ugandan human rights activist, Agatha, and as it stands, no one knows her whereabouts. The Ugandan government has also written to the Tanzanian government requesting for information on Agatha's location and for Tanzanian authorities to ascertain her release and return to Uganda, or at least let Ugandan High Commission staff in Tanzania talk to or visit her.
Free Agatha, free! Free! Why is Agatha?
Catherine Omwando, NTV.
Why is Agatha?
Okay, there you have it. Your foreign affairs minister is disappointed, and he's now blaming it on the constitution. I thought human rights are cross-cutting their international provisions in the application. They don't have to bank on the 2010 constitution. Reverend Lal.
Bernard, I think Mudavadi is somehow confused, because I listened to some of his utterance earlier, where he was basically blaming the Kenyans for doing, for even stepping out there. They have not broken any law, anything that should let him speak the way he spoke. That he's broken the law, that the law of Tanzania, we are following up. Even if they broke the law, still the role is really to kind of find out what's really going on. But I heard him blame, the people. But one thing that he has to remember, yes, we have a great constitution, but if we are not using it, because he's not using it to protect another Kenya, okay? And if we are not even protecting our own people, we abduct them and kill them, what's the difference between Tanzania, okay? So clearly, the message should be to Kenya itself, because it seems as if Tanzania is right to say this bad governance, you are doing things out in your country there, now you're bringing them over here, and that may be towards the government, not even towards the innocent activists. So to me, I think it's a double talk, and I think is very much with the Tanzania in terms of what is going on, because they are doing the same thing in Kenya. So to me, I don't have any, I think both of them all the two countries are not following their constitution, because their constitution protects us, we the people. We are the one to be protected, not themselves and a small cocoon of people. So that's what I would say. I would not much confidence in what he was saying. He's speaking it because I think there's pressure, a little bit, the giving in, the earlier stand that I think I listened to says a lot about tuko peke yetu kama wa Kenya. You don't expect someone to be there looking for your interest. I think it's sad. It's really truly sad. Okay, I'm a Kenyan, you know, and look like if I'm outside of Kenya, I'm on my own. You know, nobody would stand for me or speak for me, because I think he mentioned something like he went on his own. It's almost like if you're on your own, then your country does not protect you. But my understanding is that Kenyan's law must protect me wherever I am. And that's why their services at the embassy, those embassies are there for Kenyan first, not for those countries. They are there for the interest of the nationals. Those are the ones that they take care of first before those countries. But I think in Kenya it's a reverse. You know, there was a time, of course, things have changed, where it's better to go to Salvation Army than to go to the Kenyan embassy for help. And that was the story that many of us had experienced. And we thought things had changed with the new constitution, with the new idea, new love for the nation. You love your country to protect them, to the people. And I remember losing someone, and then you call the embassy, they're asking you, how did you come to this country? You know, what does that to do with, I'm a Kenyan, I'm calling the embassy so that I can be served, given my the documentation I needed. And you hear people talk like that, so you wonder what they learned in the diplomatic, training. But that, I would think that was an old story. Things are different. But seeing what I see now is sad, very sick. Thank you, Bernard. I'm getting more upset.
Thank you, Lala, for that explanation. And Musalia Mudavadi leaves a lot to be desired. I wanted to bring in the example of Chisekedi. You remember the incident when William Ruto entertained the rebel leader in of the Democratic Republic of Congo. Mm-hmm. Following day, the Kenyan ambassador in Congo was given marching orders to leave the country. There are some drastic measures that shows your seriousness in terms of relations. Now, see what he says in the complaint, in the protest letter. He says that Mwangi was held in Communicado, and then the embassy was denied access to him. So Musalia is calling the Kenyan ambassador in Tanzania, and the embassy of Kenya in Tanzania is denied by the Tanzanian authority to access their Kenyan citizen who is in their custody. So it appears here like now he's begging for that to happen. The reason why we have that diplomatic channel is so that things can go smoothly without hiccups. I am the Minister for Foreign Affairs. I'm sending my ambassador to check on this. I understand this and this has happened. That ambassador should have access to the president, have access to the wherever authorities that are available. So if the ambassador is denied access to the whereabouts of a Kenyan citizen in that country, do we need that embassy there in the first place? Is that embassy there working for Kenyans, so it went to Tanzania to eat the Tanzanian meals and enjoy the stay there?
That's true, but even on the other hand, you see, Tanzania has an high commission in Kenya. Summon them immediately. At the same time, on a ministerial level, coordinate with the other ministers under the embassy of the channels are there. So to talk to us now, when you got that information immediately, to me, make you an accomplice. You are very happy that Mwangi people have been. I mean, there's no rocket science here. I think it's Kenya's telling us something. It's fact. More anger should go towards Kenya before even Tanzania. Tanzania already, we don't want that kind of behavior. But how the channel, the people that's supposed to protect us, fight for us. It's your lawyer, your security, your people is not doing their job. And I mean, it is shameful. It's shameful.
Yeah, it's clear that the Kenyan government doesn't act on behalf of its people. Just to remind you, the human rights activists in Nairobi decided that they gave Madam Suluhu 24 hours to release Boniface, or they will go to take over the embassy, the High Commission of Tanzania. And now this should it's shocking to me, okay, that by this morning, all the police, the law enforcement agents of Kenya were surrounding that commissioner, High Commission residence, where it's housed, against Kenyans, so that the protesters should not access it. So police wa Kenya ndio wameenda kuzingira hiyo embassy ili wa Kenya waziende kuprotest kwa kuachiliwa kwa Mkenya. So I don't know. Is that how it works?
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. You know how a country progress that we thought we have made in terms of trying to, is all this East Africa thing a pretext? I mean, is for their own individual interest, not for the people. If a simple thing as your security is threatened when you step into the other country without clear, legal breach, then why do you need, unless they're setting us up to destroy the relationship, as leaders, but for what purpose? Mwangi, whoever is all of us. Is a picture. Is a representative of all of us. It's me who was there in Tanzania, who was harassed. Is because he's innocent. Is there for actually good reason, which they should have been welcomed. Okay, they can disagree with what it stood for, and that's what democracy is all about. And so to treat him as worse than a criminal, torture him, put his family through this, and then expect us to be neighbors and friends. And what are you saying about your people coming to Kenya? Okay, you're creating a terror, a reign of terror in the people, of fear. So to me, Mama Suluhu has some things to answer. There's a lot of questions that must be answered, because it doesn't help his country, doesn't help the people of the region. It actually makes things worse. And of course, we've seen this in Kenya and Tanzania. I think Mato was talking, I think you, Bernard, nasema namna tumeharibu uhusiano wetu na nchi jirani, kama Sudan, Rwanda and Burundi, and not Burundi, but Rwanda and Congo. Tumeharibu kabisa. And so sometimes we don't know whether they are protesting that, where we handle things outside, whether they are protesting the way we handle our election, things like that, so they don't want that example near them, So it's a message to us, it's to all of us. So that's my take on that.
Yeah, thank you. And we are about to call it a day, ladies and gentlemen. Two things remaining for us to look at quickly. Another Catholic priest has been gunned down, or rather shot dead, in Kerio. Remember, the other one is being buried tomorrow, who was rescued by a good Samaritan, taken to hospital, and then succumbed later. And so we were asking questions: what is happening? Is there somebody targeting the Catholic priests, or it is just isolated in coincidences? There is that matter. And then there is another matter where the official public seal that has throughout history of our government in the custody of the Attorney General, who is the official legal advisor to the president and the person to assess whatever laws that are being passed or treaties that are being agreed upon are in consistency with the Constitution before they are sealed. So he keeps that seal, and it is done that way. But it is now coming up that that seal was taken over and is now in the Public Service Commissioner's head of public servants, or service, who is working directly under President Ruto, meaning their laws, their treaties, and their agreements that are being sealed without the knowledge of the Attorney General and without the input of the Attorney General. And it says that there was a law that was hurriedly through the parliament that authorized that. So I wanted us to weigh on that shortly before we close. And I want to bring up that particular video, or giving the insights into the same, and then we discuss. So quickly tulete hii ya nani ya Catholic priest ni kipi kinachoendelea, dakika 2-3, alafu tuzungumzie masuala ya seal. Mbona seal itolewe mahali inapaswa kuwa iwekwe mahali pengine, na kwa nini sheria ibadilishwe kufanya hivyo? What is cooking in Ruto's office?
Welcome back to KTN Prime. We continue informing you. Now, another Catholic priest, Father Alois Bett, has been killed after being shot dead in Kerio Valley during a gunfight on Thursday.
The Office of the Inspector General of Police says 6 suspects have been arrested in connection with the incident.
This happened on a day that another priest, Father John Mainandegwa, in charge of Igwamiti Parish in Nyahururu Diocese, was laid to rest.
Elvis Kuske with more on that story.
The slain priest, identified by police as Father Alois Bett, was ambushed and shot dead near Kapkane Primary School in Tot in the county of Elgeyo Marakwet at about 1 p.m. as he headed to the venue of small Christian community sermon near the scene of shooting. Elgeyo Marakwet Police Commander Peter Mulinge says the priest had parked his vehicle along Chesongoch Totli Terry Road and walked to the venue of the afternoon sermon.
We have just lost our Catholic priest, Father Alois, a few kilometers from where he was today, doing some work with the community. And Father Alois was a great father. At 2 p.m. I was called and told that Father is no more and his body is being now transported.
We have lost a very important person in the society. That is our father, who has been assisting us in terms of spiritual nourishment.
But he was laid ambushed by assailants who shot and killed him. The priest, who was attached to St. Mlumba Catholic Parish, died on the spot. In a statement, the Office of Inspector General of Police confirmed the incident, saying a manhunt has been launched. So far, 6 suspects are being held in connection with the killing of the priest. The IG in the statement said the incident was not in any way related to cattle rustling. Swear Reverend Father John Maina Ndegwa, the Catholic priest in charge of Igwamiti Parish in Nyahururu Diocese, was killed few days ago, was laid to rest. The father was laid to rest on Thursday at Tabor Hill on Oljor Rock, Nyandarua County.
Ninachunguza haya mambo. Hivi karibuni tutaambiwa ni nini hasa kiliua ndugu yetu ambaye hapo awali hakuwa mgonjwa.
Police have launched investigations into the matter. Elvis Kosgei, KTN.
Quite.
There you go. What is happening with our clerics? And is there a squad to target them, or is isolated cases? Thank you for joining. I can see Furaha Habat. Lala, if you can, if you have something briefly, please, ndio tupate Habat na Furaha wachangie kiasi tuende kwa hiyo maswala asili.
Let them go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Habat?
Good to see all of you.
Yes, Bernard, asante sana kwa huu muda, najua muda umeenda, hata nichangie kidogo. Kwanza ningependa kupeana pole kwa familia yao, the fathers wamepoteza. Wakati kuna kifo ni painful, ukue side gani, kifo ni kitu si ya kufurahikia kwa familia kila mtu. Nikiongeza kuwa ni hizo deaths ya pili we cannot say ni iko na suspicion fulani, lakini ile ya kwanza the other father mwenye alikufa, mimi I don't think just normal, kwa sababu I think, na si kusema alikuwa sijui venye alikuwa ameishi maisha yake, but what I can say that the priests, pastors wamekuwa, maoni yangu, sija accuse mtu, wamekuwa kilonda money for the politicians. Maybe they come to pick their debt, kuchukua pesa yao, and you messed up maybe on some things, so iko so much tied na politicians. Now the only thing naweza kuwa tied na politician in this regime tumeona is either venye alikuwa naweka pesa kwa makanisa, now they have come to collect. Maybe you are right now the politician knows in power. Our pastors, maybe priests wanasema utafanya. So this is just a speculation, not a fact. I'm just speculating that might be the reason, but inaweza kuwa niko off pia. Nikiongeza tu kwa mada imepewa kutoka sahi ya the activist Kinuruhusu Bernard. The activist, kitu naweza sema ni sheria. Huwezi toka Uganda ukuje Kenya uweke maandamano na ujui sheria ya Kenya imewekewa watu gani wa Kenya. And then when you come to a country as a visitor, kuna ile mnapewa with it ni visa ama nini unapewa, na to some country ukipewa visa si kumaanisha yuko entitled to some rights. So wanaweza provoke na wakudeport. Penaweza disagree kama he was tortured, treated bad way, that was wrong. But wanaweza kudetain, wakudeport kwa sababu visa si privilege ya kuwa hapo. So ukiwa kwa wenyewe pia unafaa unaenda vile wako. So if our brother went to do some activist thing there, then wako agree nayo, wako na right ya kukudetain na wakurudishe kwenyu. So ile shida tu ni kama alikuwa tortured, but kama hako na protest pia na walikuwa na mshuku, wangemruhusu kumpa hiyo visa. So hapo ndo naweza ona that's the only opinion za kuwa nayo. Asante bwana.
Okay, thank you. So was he protesting in his hotel room? Because kulingana na report, yeye alikuwa amelala, akagongewa mlango papa. Okay? Akachukuliwa juu kwa juu. So hii protest ilikuwa kwa bedroom.
Unajua, this in Africa, obvious, he was not protesting, but the mama alikuwa ana suspect he might be planning something. Unaona, na the opposition there iko very, kuna issue. So ndio hata ka protest wako na right, doesn't matter umekuja kuprotest ya kuprovoke hiyo visa yako na wakutoe whatever condition watadecide kulingana na sheria yao, lakini kumwekelea na some criminal zenye kufanya ama kumtocha, that was the wrong thing. Lakini kudeport mtu you have no, wewe ndio utakuja na reason kama nchi juu ni visa, si ni mtu wa huko. So hiyo ndo nadhani, lakini kama ako na protest, mama lazima angetafuta njia tu ya kumtoa hapo. Kwa tocha tu ndio kama ili happen, that's what I'm against it. Anyway, Tanzania pia ikuja hapa alete nyef, we are doing the same, tuna reciprocate kila kitu.
Enda pole pole. Asante. Lakini ladies and gentlemen, as we begin to call it a day, please let's be active in doing what we must do. Like the video. Kama hujapiga kura yako, piga kura yako. Unaona uhusiano katikati ya Kenya na Tanzania ukatwe kwa sababu ya haya mambo ambayo yametokea, ama tuendelee na maongezi kama vile Mudavadi anasema. We played the video of Amina Mohamed, whereas the Minister for Foreign Affairs during Uhuru's time, and her speech and her communication is clear and is biting. But this one ya mtoto wetu hairidhishi kabisa, unless mtanifundisha baadaye. Furaha, hali vipi?
Salama, long time.
Hey, wewe unaonekana siku hizi usikiki.
I'm around now. So, to maybe just before I go to the priest issue, I just want to have a take on what Herbert is saying. First of all, you have to be aware that this is not the first time that Boni has been in Tanzania in solidarity with what would be considered the opposition or other activists in bringing change into that country. It's not the first time. So that in itself sets a bad picture because he has been there before, and he wasn't deported, he wasn't tortured, nothing was done to him. So that in itself is questionable. That why this time? And he has also been to Uganda for the same purposes. They go, they listen. He has stood with Bobi Wine during the times when he's had issues. So that in itself also raises the questions. And then we are also saying that, and I had Reverend Lala make reference to it, that probably even the people who are tasked with taking care of our embassies, are they even competent? Because I think those are some of the things that come up. You wonder, where is our representative in Tanzania? And regardless of whatever somebody has done, there are still protocols of how somebody is handled in a way that protects their rights. So if Boni was already in the country and they felt that he shouldn't be there, they fear, or they were suspecting, as it has been put, that they were planning to do something, then there are ways to get him out of that hotel room and get him back to Kenya without all these 3 days torture, undisclosed, being held incommunicado. You're just, worsening the situations, because even when countries have criminals or people of suspect coming over, the way it is handled has to still be diplomatic. There's a protocol on how things are handled. When somebody is found in error, you don't hold them incommunicado, you don't mishandle them, you link them up with their people, you communicate clearly as a government. And then our government also failed us, because we know that when it is about Kenyans, that is your work. It doesn't matter who this person is. Wacha aletwe, hata kama ni mhalifu, anaregeshwa, alafu kama ni mhalifu mnadili na yeye vile sheria zenyu zinakubali. But the process of getting them out of that country, there's a standard protocol of bringing people back to their, even deportations, you know, there are standards on how you do that. So I think there are a lot of gaps, and some of it is reflecting very badly on us. we can say, oh, Tanzania, and what they've done, and I think this reflects badly on Mama, because she's going into an election. This is a possible candidate that they're denying an opportunity to be able to be part of the elections. What she's afraid of, we do not know. Maybe, you know, in the absence of being a partner of the late Magufuli, maybe she's afraid she cannot hold her own. I don't know. But the environment is not right, you know, for the way, you know, for a free and fair election. You can see that there are those concerns. And as East Africa, if we have a treaty, if we are neighbors, if we are working together, you can't just say, you know, whatever happens in that country doesn't impact on us. So that is what I would say. And I would also say that, you know, some of the utterances that were made by our leaders, kama ningekuwa mama hata mcharaze mpaka viboko, you know, some of our leaders are speaking and you're wondering, where do they stand? And how does this reflect in the bigger picture? Because sometimes we forget and we just think, oh, sisi ni watu wa Ruto, tumesimama, hii ni Kenya yetu. But anything that touches on border and another country, you have to be sharp enough to know that there's a wider reflection that comes out. So the people we send are cronies, and some of them do not have, you know, you wonder where they studied diplomacy. They don't have it, Reverend Lala. That is why that was your concern, because you could see that, you know, some of these people, they don't know how to handle these ambassadorial roles that they have been given. So the last thing I want to say regarding this, as Kenyans, I think it is disconcerting when you have people talking about, oh, sijui walipeleka kiherehere yao huko akina Martha Karua, what were they going to do there in the first place? That's neither here nor there. And this is what takes away from what we have. Because as Kenyans, we came together, Gen Zs and the tech-savvy people were able to hack. They were able to send a message that you cannot just treat Kenyans the way you want. We will stand with our own. And that's what we need. That is something you rally together for a common cause, regardless of which sides you are on. But when you start hearing people taking sides, you know, praising Mama on that she has done well, you know, what were they going to do? Hata wamezoea sana, sijui wamepeleka viherehere zao za Kenya huko. It is so sad, because that's not the point. The point is these people had some business to do there, you know, and they crossed that border and they were not handled properly. So regardless of whether whatever business they were going to do there, if it is not required, well and good, but you do it diplomatically and in consideration of all the treaties and all the neighborliness that we deserve. Because if we start saying what they've done to us, we do to them, it's still going to work out against the unity that we want to forge as East Africa, or even as Kenyans and Tanzanians, and we are neighbors and we are friends. Now to this matter of the priests. I'm a Catholic, and once the bishop or the cardinal has sort of spoken themselves to a matter, I think as a priest, I would be very careful in how I handle issues that relate to a matter where a bishop or a cardinal has expressed themselves. I think it is the Bishop of Kilifi who, stopped, communicated that in his diocese, he doesn't want any special seats spared for politicians in the church. If they are going to come, let them come like members of that church and leave like all the Christians normally do. Then there's this other matter of this donation of, was it 20 million? And Cardinal actually asked, the priest not to receive that amount of money. That is a clear guideline. That is a clear guideline of how things need to work. Because if I am a priest, then a bishop in the hierarchy, a bishop is higher than you, and a cardinal is up there. So if they've already expressed them, if people who are above you have already expressed themselves on matters relating to how we are supposed to handle politicians, their donations, their harambes, I think it doesn't look good for the late priest, may his soul rest in peace, to involve himself with the person of the former DP and have a harambe there. And clearly looking at the events, it seems like this is what was the matter, Investigations will take place, but there would be, that coincidence is too much of a coincidence that, there was this harambe and then it seems like people were after him, maybe thinking, going after the money that had been collected or something to that effect. But I think there was a mistake there, and I think there's a message there for all the other clergy, in relation to a particular denomination. If the heads of your institution have determined that this is not the proper way of handling things, I think all the rest need to just follow the instructions. It might not be a communication that was done, maybe the way they normally do their communications to all the dioceses or, by the representative of the Pope in the country, but you would follow in the sort of guidance that has been given by your superiors. So I think that is something that should be a lesson learned for the churches, because our relationship as the church with the politicians has left a lot to be desired. So if we are going to go forward, we need that clarity and proper practice to continue to take place. Let us not give these people undue attention. Let us not have them, if they want to give you donations, let them do it, without the attention that it attracts. If they want to donate, why can't they just send it, to the church, and even it can be even acknowledged and said, oh, we received some support from the DP, or former DP. So I think in that sense, something could have gone wrong there in terms of protocol, in my assessment. That's just what I think. And then this other one, they say it is castle rustlers or just some attackers. I don't know how many times.
The cattle rustling issue.
Rustlers, yes. But I don't know if this priest also has cattle or he protects people who own cattle, because it's I don't see the connection. I don't see the immediate connection. So if it was accidental that, maybe they were just attacking and they didn't know that this is a priest, it's understandable that would be an accident. But if they knew he was a priest and they killed him, then the investigations will if they are going to be conclusive, that is, because in Kenya that's also another story. The investigations can happen. Whether they will bring things to light is neither here nor there. even when things are very certain, sometimes nothing comes of it. So let's put our ears on the ground, hear what actually happened. But it is sad to lose men of the cloth, you know, one after the other in such unusual circumstances. Bernard.
Thank you, Fra, for that observations. And from just throwing in, this is in form of gossip. Herbert talked about the money laundering syndicate, where politicians are colluding with church leaders to wash the money. So it is rumored that before those harambes take place, there are some agreements that are cut between the home priest, the pastor, and the politician. So politicians will come and say he brought the 20 million. So the public sees he brought the 20 million, but of the 20 million, you're supposed to return the 15 million. The real contribution is 5 million. And so if that mathematics is done and you fail to return the 15 million, or the church committee, there's a movie called Church Committee, where the church committee takes over everything and sidelines the priest. So the priest is left here. He had an agreement, yes, he would deliver the 15 million, but now it has all been taken by the church committee. How does he convince the church committee that he's supposed to return this? So probably in those racket of balancing and all that, kuna ile animosity, and then of course our politicians who are blood hungry will make those kind of assassinations plans. Who knows? But I think keeping with the standard of the scripture, men of God, we just keep away from entangling ourselves with civilian matters. Let's mind our vocation and focus on the same. This getting entangled with this many things is in danger as at now. And then also the attitude of eliminating people in our society is becoming almost a norm, and we need to be careful, whereby before the society returns to the place where there is appreciation of the sanctity of human life, and that preserving life being a priority. But this business of taking somebody's life simply because he took your money or he took whatever he took, that need not to be normalized. It should not become a way of life. Let's get back to really values of life, that hata kama mtu amekukosea, kuna njia kumsamehe, kuna njia kuweka mikakati vile atarudisha hiyo pesa kama amechukua pesa yako. Sasa ukimuua unafaidika na nini? Utamuua, ataenda kuzikwa, utarejeshewa pesa kwa sababu amekufa, ama unangoja insurance yake ikulipe? So let's think soberly and be able to handle matters accurately. But our country is not doing well. The security issue also is not functioning well. I don't know what Murkomen is up to, but mtu kupigwa tu risasi in broad day, kwanza ako kwa mass. I mean, amekuja conduct mass and then he's shot. And it's alarming. It's alarming, and we need to lay to heart these manenos. Now, kwa sababu ya muda, nataka nilete kitu ya seal, then we will take 2 minutes each, alafu tufungashe. Now, while I'm playing the video, it's a bit long. It's about, I think I'll play the 5 minutes, but it's longer than that. While we are doing that, I want us to pay the $5 for the StreamYard. Tusipochunga tutafungiwa by kesho. This is 23rd. It's been asking for payment since the 16th. So naomba tafadhali tutume michango yetu, tusaidie hii maneno, tusifungiwe, ili tuendelee na mjadala wetu bila kusumbuliwa. And then of course nawakumbusha pia Frank ni wetu na lazima tusimame na yeye, tusilegee katika kusapoti kijana, kwa sababu mnajua kuna vile tulianza na moto alafu wengine wameanza kupoa. Sitaki tupoe, nataka tukaze kabisa, tumalize hiyo safari vizuri, kijana apate afueni, ajisimamie. That's my focus. I want him to be independent, able to do his own things and make his money, pay his own bills. But in the meantime, tumshikilie, tusimwache hivyo. Sahi is far from being able to stand on his own feet. So let's keep the support coming to ensure that he has all he needs. Thank you very much. Let's listen out to this matter. It's a serious matter. And then from there, we discuss it 2 minutes or 3 minutes each. Here we go.
The reason why the seal of the government is kept at the Attorney General, any government transaction, the opinion of the Attorney General is mandatory.
In mid-2024, a quiet but seismic shift shook the foundations of Kenya's governance. President William Ruto signed a law moving the custody of the public seal, a symbol of state authority, from the Attorney General's office to the office of the head of public service. This move has sparked fierce debate, with critics calling it a power grab and a threat to democracy. So what's really going on?
And there is no borrowing from external forces. There can never be commitment of any international treaty. There can never be any commitment of government in any manner without the opinion of the Attorney General.
The public seal isn't just a stamp. It's the key to authenticating Kenya's most critical government documents, from treaties to executive orders. For decades, it's been under the Attorney General's custody, ensuring legal oversight. But in 2024, a law discreetly passed under President Ruto's watch changed that, handing the seal to Felix Koskei, the head of public service. Why does this matter? Because it's raising alarms about accountability, constitutional violations, and the future of Kenya's democracy.
This is an attempt to overrun the state apparatus and kill institutions that are there.
The public seal is a national symbol used to validate official documents like international agreements, presidential appointments, and key legislations. As per Article 156 sub-Article 4A of the Kenyan Constitution, the Attorney General, as the government's chief legal advisor, has always been its custodian. This ensures that every document stamped with the seal complies with the law, acting as crucial check on executive power. Moving it to the head of public service, who answers directly to the president, changes the game entirely.
And we are likely, after 2027, we will discover trillions and trillions of money borrowed, purported to be borrowed on behalf of the Kenyans. We will find serious treaties that have been signed against the Kenyans' wish, and this is not acceptable.
In mid-2024, President Ruto signed a law transferring the public seal's custody to the office of the head of public service, led by Felix Koskei. This wasn't a loud announcement. It was done quietly, with little public or parliamentary scrutiny, as reported by the media. The move came amidst political turbulence, including protests and the impeachment of Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. Government spokesperson Isaac Mwaura defended it, saying it was anchored in law and that the Attorney General's role remains intact.
When you look at the law is very clear. The seal is under the head of public service. That is the law. It was passed recently. Because of the executioning, the role of the head of public service is to execute the orders of the president. That is why even my office is under the executive office of the president, chief of staff and the head of public service. Next question.
But when pressed for specifics on May 19th, 2025, Mwaura struggled to name the exact legislation, leading many to question the government's transparency.
So, Dr. that is to say the AG doesn't hold the government seal
The
anymore.
new law is that the head of public service is the one who has the public seal.
But was it communicated to Kenyans? Are the citizens aware that the government seal left the AG's office to head of public service?
Ronnie Reagan, that is a process that went through Parliament. The law was passed. There was public participation.
When was that?
Sometimes last year. So let us maintain that way. You can confirm with the Hansard. You can confirm with the proceedings of public participation. And there's nothing wrong with that, for your information.
So what happens to AG?
So therefore, the AG remains with his powers as the principal legal advisor of the president. But the seal of the president, of the government, is within the executive office of the president. Let's go to the next question.
Why would Ruto...
There you have it. The rest of the story, you can get it on TikTok. We have uploaded the entire video. But you get the gist of the whole thing. Tutaanza kwa lala, ama?
Let somebody go first. I'll come next.
Okay. Herbert?
Asante sana Bernard. Okay, hapo kwa seal, hiyo ni a very serious situation yenye nchi yenye tumekuwa independent for how long? Almost over 50 years. And such moves bado, they are making some very foolish moves. Kama hii serikali, shida inatokea hapa. Ukipitisha sheria, you can't even huwezi hata gazette. No one knew. And then he's saying some years back. I'm suspecting that this elite, this Kenya wanaita the elite, hao wanajifanya the top. They're preparing to cover their hizo mashimo wamekuwa wakifanya. For all those presidents, nyuma, tukianza maybe from Kibaki till Ruto hapa, they are going to stamp every fake document to cover up what they have been doing all those years. Then mkikuja kuclaim wanasema ndio it was approved. This was approved this way. Because wame suspect there's a storm coming. And it's a storm that sidhani kama kuna mtu atabaki. Because whichever way lilisema, hata waseme kulikuwa na kura ngapi, I don't think kuna Mkenya ataamini. It will be bad. It will be bad. So this movement, hii Kenya move wamemake, is obvious. Wameshajua hapa mbele ni kubaya. So the only way they can cover their what? Karibu ni okay. The only way wanaweza jificha is to create those documents chini ya maji. Then hata mtu akikimbia exile, I seek some refuge somewhere, he will be having some paper to substantiate, aseme it was legal na ni nchi tu wamekuwa incited against yeye. I think wanajificha. Even this opposition mzee bure kabisa running now into government, which position iko ndani ya serikali fire ni ati given a position. These people are preparing something big to cover up every shilling yenye wamekuwa kitunyang'anya. I thank God because najua hakuna mtu anaweza panga kesho asubuhi. Only God know the next second. So they might think wako clever, that they are making a very wise move. But what I know is that always there's going to be chaos and order come out of chaos. Chaos cannot come out of order. But inside chaos, there's always an order. So when you see some chaos, I know kuna order. That's why God anasema in chaos, nyi mnaona chaos, yeye anaona order. So whatever they are preparing, they think it is order, but it's chaos. Na hiyo chaos wana create, it will bring out order in this country. Hiyo move yenye our president ukiwa mtu amemake anajipiga kifua hapo, I'm telling you, huyo mtu tumemwachia jua. 2027, I don't think hakuna mtu from CS. Kama umekuwa opposition kwa serikali and you have messed up our funds, our resources, Look at, I saw a clip some MP invade a forest with a guy, polisi wanashindwa hata kumsimamisha, wanaingia na chainsaw na si chaka yake, that he was given some document to approve. Everything Nyanyuki, the whole Nyanyuki, very few people are owning that place. Hii nchi inaenda kubadilika. Hii sila amechukua, he might think it's wise ati ana make. Hatuna shida na hiyo seal, kama tulichukua ile ya parliament, ile rungu, hii seal tunaikujia huko, we come for it. That's not hiyo, watu wakitaka kunikujia nikujie, tutaikujia hapo. That is chaos is trying to create, thinking that amejipanga. Whoever is advising him to do that hajui Kenya anachezea. From mzee who we respect for very long time, he's not even speaking about it. Ukiangalia everyone in the opposition, hata sijui hii story ilipukia wapi, no one was speaking about it. And right now they are preparing to create some, like this issue IBC, at kama we are in agreement as the whole country, tuna feel temperature ni moja. No, wako hapa juu wanaona, wanajiangalia wenyewe. Hapa chini wajui kenye naiva. Down here it is boiling. Na penye tunaenda kufika, I don't know kata malize hii mwaka. Hii seal, watu wata cool to down. People will be doing their own business. I'm telling you, it will not, by next year, we are going for that ceiling. Lazima tutaenda tulupue hiyo ceiling, ilupuke kabisa. Hakuna, no going back again. No going back. We are coming for, mimi naweza pair, we are coming for that seal. Mimi nimejam hiyo story hata sikuwa na hiyo mood. That is wrong. I disagree. Bernard, back to you.
Thank you. It's alarming. It's alarming on how we blatantly violate the law just for personal gain. I think a time comes when the interests of the country should be given priority. Hata kama tunataka kukula, tukule kiasi na tulinde mali ya nchi. Yes, Lala?
The question I have is, I think the gentleman who was talking, the government spokesperson, stated that this was passed in parliament. Now the question is, do these legislators read? And if they read, how could they do that? Okay. My understanding of a seal, I think, for the US, it is basically signifies national authority, sovereignty, and self-government. Okay, so it is used to authenticate official documents, including treaties, proclamations, and presidential communication. Okay, establishing their legality and validity. It also serves as a visual representation of the national identity, values, historical narrative. That is on the US side. And I don't think we are very much different from that. So when it is under the Attorney General, whom we all agree is the lawyer for the people, okay? The Attorney General actually is the lawyer for the people of Kenya, okay? And that's why even the US, there's always question between the Attorney General and the President, because the President is supposed to basically serve Kenyans. Attorney General is there as his chief legal advisor, but the relationship is always scrutinized because he's supposed to be independent. So with the idea really with the seal in Kenyan context allows the country to have an independent, because a president can be weak, can be strong, can be die, can be sick, but then that seal should not be seen as the presidential, the president has it to use it, but it is there to show that symbolism, that authority of the self-governance, of a people. So to hear that this thing is moved and the House, which is really the Parliament, is agreeing to it, the question is, did they really look at that legislation? And so each one of them should answer why this was done and for what reason was it done. Because clearly, Attorney General, that's what I believe allow us to see him as someone to defend and protect and authenticate the documents that signifies us as a people and in what we believe in and what we do and how trustworthy we are and validity of any of those documents. So I don't know whether has any of them said anything why they allowed that to be passed in the parliament. I'm confused here. Maybe is there much more to the story? And back to you, Bernard.
Thank you, Lala. There is much more to the story. I think I'll forward you the rest of the story. But we see different people giving different views, including Tienda Molo. He said it is an illegality. But naturally, what happens with the legislations in our parliament, especially when the executive is want to do mischief, they put those kind of laws inside many other laws, and then they pass them as a cluster. So it only discovered that this was part of, this is what they were suggesting. Like, for example, this was the time when the impeachment of Gachagua was on, and then we had something else going on. And so they put this kind of mischievous laws among these other things they want to pass, and then they want to pass them as a whole. So even the legislatures, wherever the members of parliament don't get time to ventilate. So they may even combine it with the budget or combine it with the CDF or combine it to something that is personal for the members of parliament. So the members of parliament chooses, if we vote against it, we miss this. We'd rather just let it so that we get this. And in the process, we now begin to pass things that are against the law. Secondly, that was, if you have been listening to Muturi, this could have been part of what brought the tension between Ruto and Muturi, saying that Muturi is incompetent, okay? Things that Ruto wanted to pass quickly without them being scrutinized. And so Muturi, having the custody of the seal, probably was frustrating the efforts of stamp this, let's move, stamp this, let's move. In his demand that it has to be done procedurally. And so this is mischievous, no doubt.
Bernard is really mischievous. Let me talk about what I know here is in the US. Each congressperson has a staffer. And those staffers, specific staffer that read this thing for them. They are hired, they are paid by the government to make sure that the congressman or woman is well informed of what is going on. So an important legislation cannot pass without the input of understanding of people that we put there to represent us. This is incompetency. This is wrong. This is, to me, very, very sad that something like this can pass and these guys have no knowledge of what's really going on. To me, I think something is seriously wrong. Thank you.
Exactly. Thank you very much. Faraha, please take it there.
My take is that we know Ruto's background. We know he has no interest of the country. He loves power for the sake of power. He doesn't take advice from people, and that is why he needs to have this seal under him, because definitely the legal aspects, which are the key issues, that's where now the constitution would come in, because whatever you're doing needs to have its backing in the constitution. So the moment you want to do something contrary, definitely your advices, especially the chief legal advisor, will give his input in terms of what is legal, what is acceptable. And because he is not willing to follow, he has, just the way Herbert amesema, this is in mpango, that he knows he intends to defraud or mutilate that constitution. The only way he can do that is to pass things that are not in tandem with the constitution and put a seal on it, so that when you're coming to question or to say, oh, why is this happening, then you have a narrative like that one that Isaac Mwaura is giving us, that public participation happened. Where? When we heard that they were going, when we got wind of the fact that they were going to add the years, the email crashed at Senate, because the clerk's emails crashed because Kenyans put their views there. So if, and he was being asked categorically, public participation where? Oh, sijui wabunge walipitisha, where? Because they know that if it had gotten the attention that it is supposed to get, it would never have passed. But it's mischief. It's that he can use, even it's not past him to even put things that have been bypassed. He can, things that were still hanging and pending there and people had refused them, he can put a seal on it and just say, ilipitishwa wabunge sometime there. It was in between the other laws and the bills, and people passed them. And once it has a seal, it's actually sealed. That's the whole thing. It's a deal, and it's a sealed deal. So I think where we are going, there's a fear that exists, and that's why he wanted that. He's afraid that some of the things that he wants to do are not legally acceptable, and he wants to do this by force. And so that's why he had to move that seal and have it, so that nobody can really stop him. So all I can say is that as Kenyans, where we are right now, there's an opportunity. We were joking today when I heard about Ivory Coast wanting to oust their president, and I said, I don't know why I didn't think of a career in the military. And my daughter just laughed, because the way it's going, just want a military person to do the necessary. So I wish I had thought of a career in the military, so that I can just, so that we don't go through so many strenuous processes to try and get rid of leadership that is just unsuitable for our people. It just makes us look as if we are stupid. We don't know what we are doing, because our leaders, they make us look helpless. They make us look inept, because now we're even hearing that public participation happened, and as Kenyans, we are actually saying that those who participated also just gave this a clean bill of health. It is so demeaning to us, that something like this can happen when we are trying to prove to the world that, as Kenyans, you can't come to us, and just belittle us. That's what we are trying even to tell our good neighbors in Tanzania, that, Kenyans, we are smart, we are sophisticated, we at least have the spine and the courage to speak out on things that hurt us. So if them they accept people to be tortured, we are not like that. We don't. However wrong they are, we just want people to have their freedoms. So when we are trying to communicate this at this time, then something like this is thrown on you and you look like mlikuwa wapi nyinyi wenye mnajifanya mko werevu. Some of this, the seal was going to from the Attorney General to the President without our knowledge. It is mind-boggling, but I'll look at the whole. I haven't had an opportunity to look at the whole story, but I think, I don't know how we are going to salvage some of these things. We need to look ahead. Like I want to believe in her, but that the seal can be returned. There's nothing that is so difficult. Kenyans, we've proven that when we come together, we can make things happen. And as we approach next month, that date when we made a very big statement, I think it's a blessing that some of these things are happening as a build-up to that time, because I'm sure that day is going to have a very big meaning in this country. And so I want to think that all the sober minds that are still looking and trusting that the change will happen, we don't give up. We can, if it's an illegality, that the way the lawyer Dunston is saying, and the way you said, Otiende Amolo has said, if a legality happened, there has to be a way to be able to overturn it. That's what I believe.
Definitely. Thank you so much on that. And this is one of the things that really make this country not to take off. Because we want to take off, and then somebody twists things that are supposed to be obvious. This is not different from a student taking the headmaster's rubber stamp and clear himself from school. Because the reason why that rubber stamp is secured is there is one person or two people that can authorize that transaction. But now if you are a participator, you're supposed to go and seek clearance from this person. It's supposed to scrutinize whatever you have brought. If he agrees with it, he stamps. If not, he tells you go and change this and this before this happens. Now you take the rubber stamp and go and stamp everything you have. It beats all the understanding in all the world. And how somebody who is the president should sit down and think and imagine such a thing and go and execute it. It beats all my understanding. I mean, do we want to remove this country completely from the rule of law, or what are we up to? Let's now throw away the constitution and just continue existing. Because why should we pretend to be following the law, but when the law begins to demand that you should be cleared by the Attorney General, or the law should not be passed until this is done, you don't want to follow that path. You want to reverse it, get the stamp for yourself, whatever you need. No. As Kenyans, we must return this country to the rule of law, and these people that wants to have the law of the jungle in this country, we should stop them. And the only way to stop them is to insist which part of the law approves this. Like those draconian rules that came up, so-called security, those ones that they want to use to control the internet and all that, that's how they pass. They put them in a cluster, come, and then they are members of parliament after they have eaten their rice. In the afternoon, they pass. Only for them to wake up when now that law begins to choke them is when they realize we did not read, we were not aware what was happening. I think as a people, we must not take this lying down, especially with the Ruto administration. There is not one thing Ruto has brought into effect, including change of law, that has been found constitutional. And that in itself shows that we are dealing with somebody who is not keen in following the law. He will destroy the law if it's not agreeing with him. And that makes him unfit to be in that office. And so as Kenyans, we have to think seriously and make up our minds on how we're going to go forward from here. If we tolerate this, we are digging our own grave. And I don't think that's healthy for us, especially for our children and our children's children. vitu zirudi mahali zinapaswa kuwa. Kama Ruto anahitaji kuomba ruhusa kutoka kwa parliament, aende kuomba ruhusa kutoka kwa parliament, si aende kulipa wabunge wampitishe. That bribery should stop. If it needs to be cleared by the Attorney General, let it be seen that the Attorney General has capacity to say no, has capacity to advise it is not this way, it has to be this way. As Attorney General ambaye ni extension, the left hand of Ruto, are doing what the right hand has said. So as Kenyans, let's engage on this soberly, and of course, that video I think is on our WhatsApp group. So kama hujaipata nitakusukumia ukaisikilize. Then if you're on TikTok, nime-upload kwa TikTok yetu Sound Candid Talk, you can hear the entirety of the video and different contributors on the same. And it's very sad that we can do that at the highest level of our leadership. That's how we rig elections. That's how we corrupt the police, we corrupt the army, corrupt everyone, just by, refusing to do what the law requires us to do. Ladies and gentlemen, time imeenda. So unless kuna swala la kuongeza mbio mbio, mimi nataka kungatuka. Lakini kabla ningatuke, nipatie hela ya kulipia sound inaitwa StreamYard. Hii app tunatumia ku broadcast. Our 30 days expired on the 16th. Tunapaswa kulipa ndio tusifungiwe. So kuna la ziada, mimi nafunga. Okay, the conversation continues even when we are finished. So share the video widely, get more people to join and be members of Sound Candid Talk. There is something I'll be uploading for members only, and that will encourage you to be a member. One of the raw videos that may not be allowed to be shared on the public platform, but a very touching one that I would want you to see literally, especially those of you that are members, and understand when we say tusimame na Frank, Frank came right from the dead, and that needs to touch us, to see it as a privilege to be part of that story. Because when you see that raw video, it will it will pass something to you. And so let's just do what is necessary. Otherwise, asanteni sana. Naomba tena tukutane katika mazingara mengine, maeneo mengine, tukichambua siasa zetu. Nimalize na this gallant son of Africa as we close. See you in the next show.
Distinguished representatives of peoples great and small, I greet you not as a career diplomat, nor as a man bred for banquet halls and handshakes. I do not come to you speaking the rehearsed language of polished politics. I come to you as a soldier of my people, as a guardian of a wounded land, as a son of a continent that has carried the cross of the world, yet has never worn its crown. My name is Captain Ibrahim Traore, President of Burkina Faso, and today I speak not only for the 22 million souls in my nation, but for a continent whose stories have been twisted, whose pain has been ignored, and whose dignity has been repeatedly auctioned off at the altar of foreign interests. Africa is not a beggar. Africa is not a battlefield. Africa is not your experiment, your puppet, your warehouse of raw materials. Africa is rising not to kneel, but to stand. And today I say before this great assembly of nations, Africa will not kneel, one on the false generosity of global politics. For decades you've sent us aid with one hand while extracting our lifeblood with the other. You build wells in our villages while your corporations drain our rivers. You donate vaccines yet patent the cures. You speak of climate action yet continue to fund the very forces that burn our forests and dry our lakes. What kind of generosity is this? The kind that feeds the mouth but silences the voice. The kind that keeps a man alive just enough to keep him dependent. We are not blind to this hypocrisy. Let me be clear, we are not ungrateful for sincere humanitarian assistance, but we reject a global order that disguises exploitation as partnership. We reject financial institutions that lend with one hand and steal sovereignty with the other. Africa no longer wants charity. We want justice. We want control over our own destinies. 2. On the chains of colonialism and its modern descendants. Our wounds did not begin with us. They were inherited legacies of an empire-building madness that saw us not as humans, but chiefs, as cargo laboratories. My ancestors were not consulted when maps were drawn with rulers and compasses in Berlin. The borders of Burkina Faso, like those of many African nations, were not carved by our ancestors, but by men who had never stepped foot on our soil, who knew nothing about languages, our tribes, or our spirits. Today, colonialism has a new face. It wears suits, it hosts forums, it signs contracts in Geneva and Paris and Washington. But it still takes without consent, it still dictates instead of dialogues, it still silences instead of listening. If you want to talk about peace, then let's begin by unlearning the arrogance that peace is something only you can teach us. 3. On resource exploitation and the myth of development. They call us developing as if the theft of centuries did not set us back, as if the gold from our lands, the diamonds from our rivers, the oil beneath our feet did not build the very skyscrapers in which this assembly sits. Let us speak plainly. Burkina Faso is rich, Africa is rich in minerals and culture and wisdom and youth. But you have taught us to measure richness in GDP and export value. You call it development when a foreign company owns 90% of a gold mine on our land. You call it progress when your security forces guard cobalt mines but not our children's schools. That is not progress, that is piracy with legal documents. From now on, we will define development on our own terms. Development that puts children in classrooms, not minerals on cargo ships. Development that respects the land, the people, and the soul of a nation. 4. On sovereignty and interference. Why is it that when an African nation makes independent choices, we are called unstable? Why is it that when we seek military cooperation outside the colonial sphere, we are labeled a threat? Burkina Faso has chosen to walk a path of sovereignty that is not a threat to peace. It is a declaration of adulthood. We are no longer under your guardianship. We are no longer your junior partners in diplomacy. We are a free people. If a nation chooses partners that respect it rather than exploit it, that is not rebellion. That is wisdom. Let it be known, no foreign power will dictate the alliances of Burkina Faso. We will build relations based on mutual respect, not historical guilt or present-day intimidation. 5. On terrorism and manufacture wars. You ask why there is violence in the Sahel. You ask why our youth take up arms. But you do not ask who benefits when our mines are guarded by private mercenaries, while our villages are left vulnerable. You do not ask how weapons arrive in deserts that produce no steel. You do not ask why peacekeeping never seems to end the war. The truth is, many of the so-called solutions to African security problems are merely business models. Endless conflict has become a market, and African suffering has become a subscription-based service. Burkina Faso has decided to break that cycle. We will fight terror, but not with dependency. We will secure our nation not with foreign dictates, but with national dignity. 6. On migration and human dignity. We do not want our youth drowning in the Mediterranean. We do not want our brightest minds fleeing to countries that once called us savages. We do not want remittances. We want reasons for our people to stay. Why do our youth flee? Not because we lack beauty, but because we are made to lack opportunity. Not because we hate our land, but because our land is treated as someone else's property. Migration is not a crisis, it is a symptom of wars we did not start, of loans we did not need, of a world order that tells our youth their only value lies outside their own homes. The solution is not border fences. The solution is justice for 7 on Africa's place in the world. Africa is not a mistake to be fixed. Africa is not a failed continent. Africa is the womb of the world, the cradle of civilization, the keeper of tomorrow's hope. We have been made invisible in global decisions that affect us deeply. At the UN Security Council, Africa with 54 sovereign nations has no permanent seat. What justice is this? You call it balance? We call it betrayal. You speak of democracy, yet uphold a global structure where the powerful few veto the dreams of the many. We will no longer whisper in rooms where we deserve to speak with full voice. 8 on faith and spiritual dignity. We are a spiritual people. Before your cathedrals, our ancestors sang to the sky. Before your missionaries, we knew the language of the rivers and the laws of the sacred forest. Christianity came, Islam came, and we received them not as slaves but as seekers. But now we ask, will the church and the mosque stand with us, truly with us, when all people are displaced by greed, masked as globalization? Will your pulpits echo our cries or only repeat the songs of the powerful? Faith, too, must be decolonized. It must walk with the poor, not the privileged. 9, on unity among African nations. This is not a speech from one country. This is the stirring of a continent. You see Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso forming a new bond. You fear our unity. Why? Because it threatens the myth that Africa can only rise under your supervision. We are uniting not to wage war, but to wage dignity, to pool our courage, to share strength, to protect each other when the world turns its back. Pan-Africanism is not a dream. It is our lifeline, and we will build it stone by stone, heart by heart, with or without your approval. 10, to the youth of Africa, to the young boy selling oranges by the roadside, to the girl who walks 10 kilometers to attend school, to the child whose only toy is a stone but who dreams of stars. You are the reason we fight. Do not believe the lie that your continent is cursed. You are the blessing. Do not envy foreign passports. Be proud of your name, your land, your roots. The world may not applaud you now, but the future will speak your name in honor. 11 final words: we will not kneel. I do not come to declare war, I come to declare will. So we will not kneel to fear. We will not kneel to foreign banks. We will not kneel to outdated empires masquerading as friends. Africa is not asking for a seat at your table.
You've dreamed about the perfect wedding, the dress, the vows, the happily ever after. But let's ask the most important question. Before you say I do, are you truly ready for the lifelong commitment that comes after the honeymoon period fades? Bernard Ngosi's groundbreaking ebook, Are You Marriage Ready?, is the ultimate guide to building a successful, lasting marriage. This isn't just another relationship book, it's a heart-to-heart conversation that prepares you for one of life's biggest decisions, getting married. Are you choosing love or just infatuation? Are you building a marriage or just planning a wedding day?
Reading this book was a game changer. I realized I wasn't as ready as I thought, but now I'm on the right path.
Don't wait until it's too late. Invest in your future. Download Are You Marriage Ready today. Link in the description below. Your future spouse deserves the best. Are you ready?
Kutoka vijijini, mijini hadi jijini. Hii ni Sound Kanti Talk Live.